And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you can hear me out of this beautiful new board that we got here for the DP show. But anyway, welcome to another show. It is, of course, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. And I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Phil Bissardo. What's up, Phil?
Welcome to the really big show. What's going on, everybody? So maybe some controversy tonight, huh? Maybe a little, going at it tonight, maybe. And I think you're up for it because you're kind of cranky and miserable a little bit.
No, I'm not cranky. And listen, what we're looking for, I was cranky earlier, but I got over it pretty quick. But what we're looking for is good, constructive dialogue. Yes. And what I really want to do, which is very rare in this industry, is for people to listen and absorb. Okay? So one of the biggest issues that we've had, I think, over the last 10 years of advocacy is that when somebody talks, people don't absorb. Like, if you believe that your opinion is better than the other person's opinion, you don't take what the other person is saying. You're kind of stuck in that way. And I think that's worked detrimental. We've seen it cause failure in state law. We've seen it cause failure in federal law. We've seen it cause failure in various organizations that have tried to start up over the years. And it's causing a rift among vapors, business owners, manufacturers, and shop owners in general. So absorb, right? Make a decision based on the information and then try to continue to fight and defend what you believe is the right thing to do, right? And I think this is a topic that needs to be discussed. It was unfortunately heated up this week on Twitter, and it's something that a lot of people kind of shy away from discussing. And I think it's just time to bring it to the light, to the public. Other than that, how's your week been? Have you been enjoying cardboard cutout Demi?
Oh my God, you have no idea. Every time I walk by, it just puts a big giant smile on my face. He was in my my video the other day.
Yeah, has he helped
the
with your anxiety
on
and
the
panic?
platform, right? And no, I agree with you. But on the subject, and it's really interesting. Like, I totally see both sides of it, right? I mean, and I might just play both sides of the fence tonight a little bit too when I share some of my opinions and ideas on the 50 milligram and the NIC cap. So
listen, if I wanted to invite Switzerland, I would invite Switzerland. We need you to take a bold statement here and go on one side by the end of the show. You don't have to right now. Right, by the way, yeah, go ahead.
No, okay. You said by the way.
We do have a poll that is running.
Yep.
And I will put the link right now in all the chats. But I do want to warn you. Listen to the show before you vote. Give it about an hour and go and vote. But there are 3 choices on this poll. I've got it on Facebook and I have it on Twitter right now. And then I'll post it as we're going along in the show. But I want you to listen. Participate if you want. The phone lines are open. 215-383-5752. Press 1 when you hear the British lady speaking. The telephone lines are open. You come on. Please be respectful. Please be constructive and join the conversation and tell us how you feel about this. If you're a shop owner, if you are just a vapor, is it going to affect your choices, your options, right? And we'll tell you what we think, of course, and what personally I think, and of course our guest panel. But try to be as constructive as possible. Okay. About the audio being out of sync, I don't know what I can do about that, but as long as you can hear us, that's all that matters. Okay. All right. So first of all, let me go ahead and bring here.
How many are we bringing in? Are we going to bring everybody all in one shot?
Yeah, all in one shot. Look at that.
Oh,
you don't like it? Look at that. It's the only way to do it. I mean, I can't say cropping everybody individually out. We're starting from your top left on your screen. We have Shai Be or Shai, whichever way you want to say
How's
it.
Going, guys?
I say it both ways. That way I'm never offending him. Shai Be, he's the owner of 𝗏𝗵𝗶𝗹, of course, makers of the world famous #1 selling menthol citrus and watermelon peach and blueberry morning in the unsalted line. But
hold on. Just wait a second. Before we go any further, since he is the manufacturer of the unsalted line, right? Yes. Shai, could you please state which flavor is the actual #1 best-selling in the unsalted line? Please, Shai, please.
Yes. So the best-selling flavor for unsalted is Blink.
Is what?
Blink.
What's Blink?
Blink.
Oh, Blink.
I'm not picking a side here.
That's right.
No, this is not about picking sides.
See?
This is about data.
See? That's how we feel.
Does not care about feelings.
Peach. It is
Data does not care about feeling. What is it?
Watermelon peach.
Okay, thank you very much.
Watermelon
Please.
peach.
Dimitri, carry on. Thank you,
Jesus,
Shai.
I got to listen to that. I have adjusted a little bit the screen as well too. Hit refresh on your YouTube. That probably will get you back at the sync. You'll see that I do have the chat now. I figured out how to put the chat on the window and without a background on it because I didn't like it with a background, but I figured out how to do that. So it's up there as well too. You'll be able to see your comments. So try to keep it respectful. All right, moving down, we have, to the right. I didn't finish with Shai because, of course, Phil interrupted me to promote his watermelon peach.
Yes.
So owner of Dash Vapes, various locations across Canada, dashvapes.com, also member of the Canadian Vaping Association, strong supporter since day one. Right next to him, we do have a shop owner. Alternative and Options is the name of his shops. 2 shops, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Thomas Kirsop, also a member of VITA, the other Canadian Vaping Industry Association, correct?
That is correct. I'm on that board.
On the board, too. Sorry, I apologize for that.
Yeah.
And then right below him, you know him from Vape Distortion, and of course, the news guy on tasteyourjuice.com, good friend of the show, moderator, Mr. Bill Tarling.
Hello.
What's up? And Bill Tarling is close to going on timeout. I'm just going to put that out there because he was eating ramen before the show. And then right next to him, a consumer advocate from the Vaping Legion, good friend of ours, strong tobacco harm reduction activist, Mr. Matthew Elliot. What's up?
What's going on, everyone?
All right, so let me put a little preface to this discussion and how things got started. The way that of course I see it. I will bring you up here on my monitor with what kind of set things off. This was a tweet from Gregory Conley, American Vaping Association, calling the CVA, Canadian Vaping Association, wusses, which to me was completely out of line. I'm just going to put that out there. I just don't think that the representative of the American Vaping Association should be calling another advocacy group wusses. I think it's very unprofessional and something that we shouldn't be doing, period, between groups, whether they're here in America, Europe, or wherever they are. But anyway, this is where it all started because he retweeted the CVA official Twitter account that called for the federal government to limit nicotine concentrations to 20 milligrams per milliliter. And then all hell ensued. I mean, this thread, you can go on there and see it. There's responses. There's tweets from other people that got involved in this. And then, you know, what's great in vaping, right? It's drama. Now, of course, ours is not going to be like the kind of drama you used to, like with reviewers and stuff like that. But this is serious stuff because it took a lot of time and effort from the industry's real goal, which is to fight the opposition, to start fighting amongst themselves and creating this debate, what caused it. But anyway, there were some heated exchanges there and some words that I just didn't appreciate seeing. I just felt it was. Shai, how do you feel? I thought it was just kind of out of line how it started, and then it got even dirtier and messier from both sides. I should say, right?
Well, you know, it's a very polarizing issue. There's a lot of strong opinions on both sides. I can understand both sides. You know, in a perfect world, we'd all be in the status quo and nothing changes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the world isn't perfect, and there's some concessions we have to give up to ensure the longevity of our industry, whether it's in Canada, in the U.S., anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And these are just some of the things that are the least painful for the industry to implement in order for it to survive and to grow and prosper. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, and
I know there's some people that stand on the other issue, and you know, I respect their position on it, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. And I want to make this clear. This is the Canadian Vaping Association that is asking for this. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, rarely am I wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that the entire membership of the Canadian Vaping Association has agreed to this, right?
So the entire board has agreed to it.
Right.
We have discussed it with members. We've actually run a poll not too long ago, and I think it was like 83% of people were in support of a 20 milligram cap.
Right. So, and at the end of the day, if a board makes a decision, it is what it is. And if you don't like it, if you're a member, you can leave or you can join. That's how all organizations work, correct?
Correct.
I mean, just like the VTA, you know, when the VTA came out and was strong about flavors, Juul decided to leave from the board and leave. So to me, what I'm saying is that if the entire association has made this decision, you as Canadian Vaping Association, your board has decided to move through with this with the majority, the overwhelming majority of your membership, then that is a decision that you're doing for your businesses. So
Correct.
Anybody's out of line to question that, meaning that if I don't like it, what I would do is go for my own association that's going to fight against it. I'm not paying you. right? And all I'm
Exactly.
seeing people on Twitter is people that are not paying you to be members bitching about your request for 20 milligram caps. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in just a little bit more. I just wanted to put that in there. Matthew, you from the American perspective, right? I'm sure you followed this train wreck that ensued in the last week, but it's a topic that we've brought up multiple times over the last couple of years, I think. So, before we get into the specifics, I would just want to kind of get your thoughts on this whole situation that we got into, especially with this last week with everybody kind of, fighting each other.
So, truth be told, I haven't really followed it too much. I've been really focused on what's happening in New York, but it's something that is so sad that I don't even have to be following it to know what's happening, because it's the same argument that we've been having for the past 3, 4, 5 years. It's the same argument that I've been a part of many, many times. Some good debate, some bad debate with it. It is definitely a hot topic.
Yeah.
And without really going on my stance right now, I can see how people are going to get very defensive about it. I can see how people are just going to resort to name calling and just be nasty because, well, this is the vape industry. And if people hear something that they don't like, they retaliate with being internet tough guys half the time.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Bill, I mean, you followed this. I just want to get your thoughts before we move forward.
There are a lot of things I don't agree with, some things I do agree with. Where I don't think is proper is just starting flame wars for the sake of starting flame wars. Because it makes whatever association look bad.
Yeah.
If legislator ever drop in there and see all the arguing there, they'll just go, see, vapors can't even decide what they want.
Yeah.
And so you're going to take your discussions, take it privately or talk to the people directly. But open forums, it's not the place to start.
Always been our downfall, Phil, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been vaping, right? Vaping has always aired its dirty laundry online. I would say that we look like a bunch of children to most people if they were to get in and see some of the infighting that happens within vaping. Dimitri says something that I think is very, very important. And I do want to do a little disclaimer here because we mentioned Greg Connolly. Greg Connolly was invited to be a part of this. He had something else going on tonight, okay? Yeah, and I lost my train of thought.
No, you're talking about the infighting. I'm assuming that's where you're going.
The infighting and the dirty laundry. I mean, we've got to stop that. We've got to stop that. For shots to be fired like from an advocate to an advocacy group, especially in the way that it was done, to me, that's a little bit immature.
Wholeheartedly
I think it's just a little bit wrong.
I think wholeheartedly agree. It's one thing if somebody that's unknown in the industry tries to make a post just to get fame. This happens all the time in vaping, by the way, folks. Me and Phil have experienced that in the last 10 years. Somebody that wants to make their name, that go after people that are known. This is not the case here. Gregory has done a lot for this industry. He's a well-respected advocate. And for him to retweet it, especially with the language that he did, it triggers other people as well that follow Greg, right? To take whatever he's saying, as to be the Bible. I just think it was totally out of line the way it was done. It was like me tweeting something out about a group. I don't agree with everything that 𝗂𝗏 does. If I see something that 𝗂𝗏 does not agree, I don't agree with, I don't retweet it. I don't even touch it. I stay away from it, right? If I see something that I like and I agree, I share it and I try it. We got something coming up with 𝗂𝗏. We got approach today on that we're very, very excited about, and we're going to definitely help him with. But I would never retweet that and say, well, 𝗂𝗏 sucks dick. I would never do that, right? Because all that would do is that trigger all these people that are already emotionally screwed. I mean, in New York banned flavors yesterday. Can you imagine how vapors feel? And now we're coming in with threads like this to make it. I mean, I don't even know why we're talking about a 50 milligram cap in New York. There is no more vaping industry after what happened yesterday. I mean, no legit industry. There's definitely going to be a huge black market industry. But I agree with you, Phil. I think in that situation there, we really need to be careful and be a little bit more insensitive as we're progressing.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that, so if the CVA came up with this, chances are most of the members, like Shai said, the board members, they're on board with this, right? And I would assume, and I would also hope that they know something about what's going on for them to put this in there thinking that it is a winning strategy.
Yeah.
right? I would hope.
Yeah, go ahead, Shai.
Not to cut you off, but the Ontario government just recently released the regulations for Ontario, and they limited nicotine to 20 milligrams anywhere other than a vape shop. So only vape shops could sell anything over 20 milligrams, and only vape shops could sell any flavored product. And again, that was directly from advocates talking to the government, whether it's CVA, 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗹 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗍, I don't know how to pronounce her last name ever. She's a huge advocate that really helped with the postcard campaign. And, you know, all these little things add up. And at the end, I think that's the most favorable regulations out of anywhere so far. So,
yeah,
you know, all these little things add up. And at the end of the day, they all matter. And you can't always expect to get everything you want. In this case, we did, but in some provinces, obviously, we didn't.
I think that's a problem as well, too, because you are talking about provinces. And unfortunately, you know, just like here with the States, you have that same issue that you can have federal law in Canada, but then certain provinces can really screw up business. And it also puts a disruption in trade, right? We're talking about cross-border sales and trying to get your product in with different labels, if you can sell your product in that, or you're going to have to do different sizes and stuff like that, which causes a disruption in the chain of supply, which is bad for the industry as a whole. It's something that big tobacco can comply to, but it's something that unfortunately the vaping industry can't comply with as well. So having something federally makes more sense. But anyway, Thomas is back as well too. I want to be able to. I'm sorry, I know you're busy over there, Thomas, and
no, that's okay.
And serving customers is admirable. But what I wanted to get, the question I'll pose to you, just like I did the rest of the panel to get started off with, is you know, the thread that was started by Greg to me was unfair. I just did not see it as productive. I thought that the way that it was written was uncalled for and unprofessional for somebody that leads an advocacy organization here in the United States. And you know, it kind of triggered this last week of heated debates. I just want to take your take. You know, what do you think?
It might have triggered it down south, but I know from my perspective, Greg's wasn't the first message I saw, right? My introduction to that thread was a response by another guy who was less than complimentary towards a non-industry related advocate.
Yeah.
That's what dragged me into it. That's how I became aware of it.
Yeah, but you're not answering my question. My question is that, what do you feel about
my
the
opinion
entire?
Is nobody should be behaving in that
absolutely.
manner.
That's
right?
where that's where we're going to. Absolutely.
Without attacking the entity or the person.
Absolutely.
And I've been totally on both sides of that. There's been times I've lost my temper and said something I shouldn't have. And there was times this week when I was pointed out and things were said that weren't exactly attacking the argument. In fact, I haven't seen an attack to the argument, just to the person.
Yeah, and usually this, again, Matthew, you will agree with me. This happens all the time in the States. I mean, this is just this is how vaping this is how vapors react. This is how the industry reacts, bro.
I mean, if anyone knows anything about attacking people, it's definitely going to be me.
Yeah.
But there is a way of doing it, and there's many times I won't agree with stuff that an advocacy group will do or an advocate will do. But unless I see it as, I guess, beneficial to call it out, then I'm just going to have side conversations in private messages about it. I'm not going to publicly post anything.
Well, what I think you said there is accurate. There's a way to do it, right? There's a way that he could have gone about getting his point across, getting his message across, and not made it inflammatory, right? But he did. I mean, it was to me. And I it's very hard for me to say anything about Greg. Greg has had our backs for a long time.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's a great
no
advocate,
doubt about it.
Right. But just the word that he used was really, really surprising to me, really shocking to me. And he's way above that. In my opinion, he's way above that. Right?
That's not a word you often hear coming out of Greg's lips.
Yes, absolutely. But at the end of the day, and Grim Green's in the chat. Hey, Nick, what's up? Nice to have you here. And if you want to call in and join the conversation, we'd love to have you on this because I know this is a topic that's close to your heart as well, too. But I do want to say, Thomas, that the decision for the CVA to make that announcement and do that request is a decision that was made by that industry group. Whether you agree with it or not, I think it's irrelevant at this point. It is an industry group that made this decision based on its membership. So,
and if we're leading into my response,
right.
I wasn't calling out that group. I was very much attacking that position. I do not agree with that position.
Right. I think yeah.
it's
we haven't gotten into that yet.
From the wrong place and has the wrong intent, but it's got nothing to do with that group. There's lots of people on that board I've got a ton of respect for.
Yeah. Let's not get into the opinion of the actual topic, because it's like, it's like trying to watch a porn movie and you get to the money shot. We haven't even started yet. But before we get to the position, I just want to talk about the process. The process is, Thomas, that the membership and the board made a decision, right? If I'm a member of the Canadian Vaping and Industry Association and I don't like that decision, I leave. I just don't give them any money. And I go join another organization, or I start my own organization. From the minute that it's a vaping advocacy industry group that makes that decision, every other group that's part of this, or every other stakeholder, if you're not a member of the CVA, you need to shut up. That's my opinion.
Unless you think that position is going to impact your business,
then you use your own trade association.
Vapors and industry members are really good at calling out everybody else for misbehavior. We'll call out doctors, we'll call out politicians, we'll call out people we don't agree with.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, I attacked that position statement.
Yeah.
The day I joined VEDA, a board member from another organization put out a video that told my customers to boycott my business because of the association I'm in.
Yeah.
So we're really good at calling out everybody else, but we get really snippy when it happens to us.
Thomas, Matthew's in the chat what me and Phil went through with the Vaping Legion, bro. And listen, we're still here. Okay, if you're gonna sit there, if you're gonna depend your entire business,
it's terrible when it happens to us, but it's okay when we do it to somebody else. If it's bad, it's bad.
I just think that you just deal with it, just like anything else. I think you're still here. You're not gonna let one post affect your entire business. You've built 2 stores. You're gonna depend on one Facebook post. I mean, seriously. If in my opinion, I mean, me and Phil literally have been threatened by every fucking group that's come through vaping in the last 10 years, and we're still here. We're still producing products, and we're still making products.
If that's the case, and when it happens to me, I'm supposed to toughen up?
No, I'm not saying you're supposed to.
So let me just clarify one thing.
No.
For Thomas. So Thomas, I think you're talking about David, who made that post. He's no longer a board member on the CV, and he hasn't been active for quite a long time. Anything I post, I always post on behalf of myself and Dash Vapes. It's never on behalf of the CVA. So I just want to clarify that. I know you posted on your blog, and we're going to get there. The responses I made under Dash Vapes, I just want to clarify for the viewers. Those are my thoughts and my company's thoughts, not the association's thoughts necessarily. Yeah. That's me talking on behalf of myself and my company.
Yes. Okay. I think we've clarified that. You clarified that for you, Thomas?
Well, I'm starting to wonder if this is a debate or an intervention.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. It's going to be a debate. It's going to be a debate. Don't worry.
Well, here's something too. This is for Canada. I would say that no opinions should really matter except for those in Canada, because what we have going on in the States, what we have going on over in the UK is completely different. So each area has to deal with their own stuff. If you have a bunch of Americans, blowing up about what's happening in Canada, listen, we have bigger fish to fry here in America first.
Ain't no doubt about that, son. Preach.
Yeah. So the opinions of those that have nothing to do with that industry in Canada or those businesses in Canada are irrelevant. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to sit back and go, okay, so this is happening in Canada. I don't live in Canada. I don't do business with Canada. This doesn't affect me directly.
Right.
I'm going to leave this alone.
You're absolutely right.
But from an American perspective, that's accurate. But from a Canadian perspective,
Canadians,
what happens to you guys really does.
That's all y'all.
Sure, absolutely. But what I'm saying is that this whole kind of debacle was started by not only an American vapor, but the head of a national vaping organization, for crying out loud, Matthew. This is what I'm trying to get at. This was uncalled for. It was shouldn't even be a topic of debate, but it opened up and then it got all kinds of people involved. All right, let me get this phone call here real quick, and we're going to continue. 510, you're on the air with us here, bud. Who's calling? Hello? Hi.
Strike one.
We can hear you. We can hear you coughing. Let me make sure you can hear us. App volume, Google Chrome. Yep. Can you hear us? Hello? Hello?
And Phil jinxed it.
No. Hold on. USB sound device. Let me just double check that it's not just them. Let me see if it's.
I told you it's the setting fairies. They came in. They fucked with the settings after Dimitri went to bed last night because we had this all working. While Dimitri works on that, Thomas, I have a question for you. Because you said something before that I thought was interesting, and maybe like people should get a background on that. You said that because you joined 𝗃𝗵𝗶𝗹, right? People came to you and they said that they should ban you because you. Why is that? What is the stigmatism with 𝗃𝗵𝗶?
𝗃𝗵𝗃 is kind of like the 𝗂𝗶𝗵𝗆 in the UK. We have some tobacco interests on the board. We have Juul is on the board, and then we have independent vapor industry is on the board. Our approach. We're a trade organization, but we focus more on the industry as a whole. And we recognize that without having those other members of this industry, no matter how the public opinion is, you can't have some discussions unless these players are at the table. You can't come up with a nationwide policy that says we're going to cut out every convenience store in Canada, right, or Juul or BAT. They're still going to be in this market. It's a lot of people have tried to get rid of big tobacco over the last 50 years. Nobody's won yet. So you got a choice. You can either try and go head to head with them, or you can try and bring them into the conversation and at least work where you have the common ground. And what we found is we're putting our focus now into harm reduction because that is something that is common to all the channels, right? So
wait. Harm reduction is common to big tobacco?
It's common to vaping. So when you look at the big tobacco organizations, right? Logic, they are a subsidiary of JTI. They are an independent company, and their mandate is the same as our mandate. That group of people wants to get consumers vaping. They want the consumers vaping their product. I want the consumers vaping my product. There is a natural conflict there. But when it comes to we want smokers to move to vaping, there is an alignment. So that is where 𝗃𝗵𝗃 meets and where we have our discussions and put our focus towards.
I think there's an inherent difference between the goals of big tobacco and the goals of the grassroots vaping industry. Our goal is to make sure people transition away from tobacco and eventually wean off and wean down the nicotine level. At least that's the goal of my company. Big tobacco wants a replacement that keeps you vaping for the rest of your life. So I disagree in the sense that I don't think our views are aligned. I think the trajectory that big tobacco wants their customers to take is vastly different than the trajectory that I want my customers to take. I want my customers to wean down and potentially off of nicotine. I don't want them to continue the habit for the rest of their lives. They could if they choose to, but big tobacco, there's only one path forward, and that's to vape for the rest of your life because their wean down options are non-existent.
That was originally the truth. Every tobacco product was 50 milligram or zero, but or not even zero. Sorry, it was 50 milligram or it was non-existent. Over the course of the last 2 years, we've seen these companies introduce step downs to 20. I think right now about 20 is about as low as you're going to get, but they have 2 step downs. And the reality is while I understand that part of this industry is very much anti-tobacco, from my personal point of view, I have never had a hatred for tobacco. For 33 years, tobacco was my best friend. I never blamed them for my problem, for my addiction. They exist now. They're going to exist. From a vaping business standpoint, if I have 1,000 vapors in my city and I have 300 of them and big tobacco's got the other 7, when those tobacco product users decide that they want something different, they want a bigger battery, they want a bigger flavor, they want a lower nicotine, they want to step it down, they come to me because no, they cannot get that in a C store. They can't get that in a tobacco store. They have to come to a vape shop.
Sure.
So
and that's
in
my
that
point.
aspect,
My point is that
the
our views are
convenience stores are doing the conversions for me with a very simple device that by its design is actually really attractive to a smoker. We all like to talk about how that big product in the States was such a heavy youth use. They grabbed 75% of the C-store market because they were offering something the independent vape shops weren't. A dead simple device with enough nicotine to guarantee you were going to get off, and your grandmother could figure it out at home opening up the box.
There's no
75%.
disagreement. There's absolutely no disagreement right there, Thomas. However, okay, this is going to be the key. And I want everybody to pay attention. All right? 50 milligram provides a hit and a buzz that gets youth hooked on the product. It's exactly the same buzz that got us hooked on cigarettes when we were 12 and 13 and tried it the first time. There's absolutely no dispute. Well, you're going to let me finish. This is how a debate works. So there's absolutely no dispute that that is a fact. My question to you and my question to the panel is, are you okay selling a product that you know that could potentially help some smokers out there, even though there's other products that can help? Listen, we're not going to convert every smoker in the world. We have failed as an industry for the last 10 years to convert over 5%. All right. So, but what I'm saying is that, are you okay selling a product that you know can help some smokers quit, but also causes initiation? Because, in my opinion, if you agree with that, you're exactly the same as the big tobacco companies and the same tax that they have done for the last 100 years. That is the point that I'm trying to get across. So I'll start with you, Thomas. You got it first.
Okay. So for a nicotine naive user, they can get that same buzz off of one cigarette, which delivers 1.4 milligrams of nicotine. My wife, when she took up vaping, because she was an adult adopter, at 6 milligram, found that it rocked her head and had to step down to 3. So it's not just 50 milligram. It is literally a nicotine naive user will get a buzz. I do not sell to 18-year-olds or to 17-year-olds. The legal limit here is 18. So no, I am not providing this product to the youth. I have a $2,500 ID scanner behind me that I was using at 100% rate to have the data to prove it. I am selling 50 milligram to a 70-year-old guy in a walker who takes 5 minutes to get from the door up to the till to buy his nicotine. I do not want to tell him that, no, I can't give you the product that you think you need because a 17-year-old is breaking the law. If I do that, what happens is we put in, let's say we put in a 20 mil cap and the youth are abusing it for the buzz. How long do you think it's going to be before somebody figures out they can put 20 milligram salt nic in a TFV16 tank?
Have you ever tried doing that?
And get just as ripped as they are off of Nords now.
I don't think that is the case when it comes to youth, Thomas. Again, my answer, you didn't answer my question. You're giving me examples of your own personal experience. Number one, a VF12 tank is not concealable like a Juul. Number two, a VF tank costs $40 to buy. Plus, you're going to need a device. You're going to need 3 batteries to go along. The kid will have to invest $120 just to get a kit to be able to make that process happen, right? And second of all, it's not concealable. Their kids, their parents will find it. They can't take it to school. So that argument is out the window, number one. Number two, the question is, are you comfortable knowing that there's a product on the market that can help people quit smoking, but also proven causes youth initiation?
Yes.
So you're fine with it. That's all I wanted to hear.
Because look, the Royal College of Physicians said it in their report in 2016. There's a line in there that nobody talks about where they specifically said, as this product becomes more effective for reaching smokers, it is going to become more of an initiation problem because you can't have it both ways. If I've got enough nicotine to get you to stop smoking, then I have enough nicotine to get somebody else to start. So the control is not necessarily with the nicotine. The control is in enforcement and education.
I'll take that as an argument. Shai, your turn.
Yeah, no, I disagree with that. So I actually have a 19-year-old brother who's been juuling for 3 years. He started when he was 16. Obviously, I don't sell Juul. I never provided him the product. He went to the convenience store to get it. I asked him a question today. I'm like, do you know anybody, or do you yourself know anyone that uses 50 milligram nic in a sub-ohm setup? He's like, what's a sub-ohm setup? Is that like a Nova? I'm like, no, like a tank, like something that those big vapes. He's like, no, I don't know a single person that uses anything that even uses those devices. Not just that uses 50 milligrams. He's like, none of my friends do. Nobody in my school does. So, I thought, okay, maybe they will go to 50 milligrams. But have you ever tried vaping 20 milligrams in a sub-ohm setup? You can't sustain that. You
sick. Ever put 50 milligram in a Nord? It's a 0.6 ohm coil running at 22 watts.
Personally, no, I haven't, because I'm not crazy.
Tank ran at when it came out.
Now hold on though. If you're talking about
power settings, though,
sub-ohm is anything below 1 ohm. Most of the pod systems that we are seeing nowadays are sub-ohm.
Yes, but they're also running at 13 to 17 watts.
Yeah, it's not the same. It does not have the same power as hitting something at 80 watts sub-ohm. Exactly. I think in this situation, I think that again, that you're confusing the product. A small pod system like the Caliburn that has a steady output, you're not going to get those kind of wattages. Even the Nord, you're not going to get those high wattages. We're talking about 80 and 100 watts like you're going to get from a dual battery device when we're talking about sub-ohm.
The RPM80 goes to 80 watts.
That is not a pod system. That is a mod.
Yeah, that's a mod. That's a pod mod.
Thomas, come on. I mean, if you want to have it, we have to make this completely transparent. That is not. This is where the industry is headed for vapors. All the pods are turning into pod mods, and they're basically mods at this point. I mean, every pod mod that comes out is bigger than a mod today. Again, it puts it into that $80 range that we're talking about. It puts it into these more expensive pod systems that I think are far out of reach from children. The issue becomes that when that statement was made by the Royal College of Physicians of 2015, the Juul issue was not an issue at the time. And I think that once we look back at this, hold on a second, but when we look back at this, I think what we're going to realize is that we're doing exactly the same thing as big tobacco as an independent industry. We're allowing a product that we know creates youth initiation. And this is what big tobacco was put on the stake back in the 2000s. And this is why the Tobacco Control Act was happening. I don't have a problem with a product being on the market. I have a problem with the initiation of the use and what balance do we need to find in order to continue to provide smokers alternative to smoking and stop initiation of the youth. I have kids as well too. Nobody wants kids to start, and for crying out loud, nobody wants to start them at 50 milligrams of nicotine at a young age where there's only up, you can go from there. There's really no down.
So I got 2 points I'd like to raise to that.
Sure.
Okay. This ID scanner I put in, it's kind of a neat tool. I learned a hell of a lot about my business where before it was all emotion and feeling, this thing spits data. So last August, I saw a run where I saw 18-year-olds who had their birthdays within the day or the previous week. There was like 6 of them in 1 week, and it just blew my mind. Because they were walking into my shop carrying smoked Nords, 0.6 ohm coils, and they were asking for 50 nic. So I started asking them, because once they're legal, that's not really my decision to say you can or can't. Sure. My shot is always, it's legal, it's legal.
Sure.
I asked them, I said, where were you buying all of this stuff before you were allowed to walk into my shop? Because this isn't C-store stuff. By the time I was done, I'd gone through 20 goddamn kids, and not one of them was packing a Juul. They were all packing 0.6 ohm coils in a device that runs 3.7 volts, which equates to 22 watts at 50 milligram. They gave me
22 watts at 50 milligrams is much different than what you're saying at TFV 16.
They were all, it doesn't matter. They were vaping it. So I notified the tobacco enforcement officer for Alberta. I wrote her a letter. I said, here is what I have seen. Here is what I have asked. Here is what I have got. I have continued to do that for a year. And you want to know? This last month, I get an 18-year-old coming in, and they're packing an RPM Pro with 50 milligram liquids that they didn't buy here. So where did you get that? I got the same name. You really want to stop kids from vaping? that guy needs to be put out of business.
That's never going to happen.
Disagree.
They're not getting it from me. They're not getting it from Shai. And
Never
the
gonna
second
happen.
point I want to raise is, does Dash Vapes sell 50 milligram e-liquid right now?
We do, but I have one.
Then
I have
that's
two,
the end
I have
of it.
two obligations. I have a moral obligation, which is my own personal belief, and I have an economic obligation to my business to make sure that my customers could get whatever they're getting from me and not from my competitor.
Okay,
That's the
so
reason why
all
we
of
sell
your
50
customers
milligram
are
milk.
over 18.
Absolutely, yeah.
You don't sell to minors.
Of course
So
not.
all of your 50 milligram drive is by people who are legally allowed to purchase the product, not by
Yes,
minors.
But they're also
So-
very young, so they're all between 19 to 23 or 24. And
Well,
what did they start on? They didn't magically just, when they turned 19, start going on 50 milligram Nick.
that's fine. But at 18, they get to make that choice.
I
That's
don't disagree with you, but
19
they're also not getting the product from me or from you. They're getting it from the convenience store or the gas station. That's
No, they're
my
not. They're
argument.
buying it from the head shop down the street. That you
Majority-
can't buy a smoked
But
Nord.
you think that
in
there's
any
vape shops that are not selling to underage kids?
Not one.
Absolutely, everybody sells to underage kids. I mean, the majority is C stores, head shops, those kind of tobacco stores and stuff like that. But there are vape shops that sell to underage kids. They've been cited here in America. We've seen it multiple times, right, Matthew?
And
Let me see if I can get these phone
Here's the
lines to
thing
work
with-
right now. Hold on just a second. 510. Can you hear me now? 510. Can you hear me? You should be able to hear me. You can't hear me. Okay. All right. I'm gonna bring him on from a different outlet. Go ahead. Keep up with the discussion, please. Phil, help out
so
here.
the point is now I've lost my thought. The phone call screwed me up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'll help you get it.
I'm sorry.
Get it back on track. Or if you want, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I wanted to say something here. I think, first of all, when he comes in with that Nord and the 50 milligram, obviously the person was initiated to it by somebody. You're saying that it's from the head shop down the street. Maybe it is the C store. Maybe it was originally the Juul or the Puff Bar, whatever the hell else it was. Here's my fundamental problem, because I do see both sides of this story and I understand both sides of the story. But there was a time when the vaping industry discussed something, and what we used to discuss was solving the cigarette. You guys remember that? Solving the cigarette, right?
Yeah.
And I think the problem is that big tobacco came along and they didn't solve the cigarette, because I think we were on the right track. I think we were giving people options and choices and getting them to come down on their nicotine, maybe giving them the ability to step down and to move off of vaping altogether. I think in a way we solved the cigarette. But I think big tobacco came along and they didn't solve the cigarette. They replaced the cigarette. And there's a big difference there. Big difference. Right?
And I would say you're partially right. Right?
Absolutely.
If we look at the number of conversions we had more conversions pre Kanger subtank than we had post. Post Kanger subtank, we got a lot of dual use. We got a larger number of people vaping, but a lot of them were dual users.
Mm-hmm.
I would posit that Dr. Farsalinos is going to tell you that Juul hit it right on the head, because in 2014, he literally said that at a 1.8 ohm coil, he was using the Kanger Tech, what is it, Shai, the stick one?
The K-Box? Oh, the Evan?
He was using the EVOD. So 1.8 ohm coil, 3.7 volts. He literally said, you need 50 milligram. Literally, that's what he said. So in 2015, Juul came along with their little stick, and it's 1.8 ohm coil. And it's tiny battery that was giving them 3.7 volts and 50 milligrams. Somebody was paying attention, because they literally did exactly what that man said to do in 2014. Juul's problem was their marketing was shit. I'll say it. You don't put a 20-year-old model up in a vape ad and expect not to get 16-year-olds, because 16-year-olds look to the 20-year-old market. That's where they want to be.
The open industry has been very guilty of doing that.
The open industry, I could pull examples of that within 3 seconds and have them all over the screen. But that was Juul's main failing, was their marketing. Everybody says they were marketing to youth, and I'm not going to get into the politics inside their boardroom because I don't know, right? I wasn't there. But I can tell you, if I want to market something to a 17-year-old, I'm going to put it out there as something that 20-year-olds like to do, because that's where every 17-year-old wants to be. They want to be able to go to the bar. They want to be able to do all this stuff that we tell them they're not allowed to do. They look up to that demographic. So I would say, yes, we were solving the issue, but then the vape industry got distracted. We took off we turned a tool into a toy.
Oh, yeah.
And we promoted it that way.
That
Juul and Big Tobacco came back in, and literally they went, this is a tool. Now they got carried away in C stores. The ads in C stores sucked. Juul's promotions were mistargeted, but the device itself, there is nothing about that device that says toy.
The device sucks. The only reason it sells is because of hype. The kids see it and they're like, I want the Juul. You might have.
I'm gonna disagree with that too, because I think the Juul was created.
You know?
I think Juul was created
the Stealth
perfectly.
was a ripoff of the Juul. We took that technology and we recreated it. We've done that over and over. Big Tobacco comes out with 50 milligram. How long was it before it was in our shops? Big Tobacco didn't put it there. We did. We made that hype.
No, the first product that was anything over 20 milligrams was the Juul. You never had.
And how long was it before we produced the same product?
Probably
it's not the fact that they produced it first, but like within 6 weeks we had our version. I've got one. But I use it all the time.
Big part of that is because the industry thought they were going to lose out against them. That's why they copied it.
I think it's because this industry has been all about hype and all about the new. I want to sell the same guy 3 mods a month. This one came in a checker spot, and this one is a modified woods, and this one is gold, and that makes it special. We do that. We talk about it all the time. No vape shop can survive unless they are bringing in the newest product as soon as possible. I've heard it from everybody in this room at one time or another.
No vape shop can survive unless we're bringing in new customers.
Myself. I got to have a certain amount of new product for enthusiasts. My smokers that I converted 3 years ago, I converted them with T18s. 2 years later, those batteries started failing. You want to know what those guys, the first thing they ask for when they come in? I want another T18. I had to convince them to move to something else because I couldn't carry it anymore. This industry created that hype. And I can drop examples for a week from every vendor, including myself. I've done it. Where we created hype to sell the new.
But we're talking about Juul specifically here. I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's our problem. We keep blaming Juul, and we're doing the same thing.
Let me finish. We have the Juul and we have the Stealth. We both agree the Stealth is just as good as the Juul. Why is the Stealth not worth? Okay, so why is the Stealth not selling millions of units a month and Juul is?
Because the Stealth largely is the C-store market.
Exactly. You just
so are we looking to protect the vape industry, or are we looking to protect the smoker?
You protect the vape industry by protecting the channels that it can be sold at and the way that enforcement can happen.
Okay, so
Canada cannot go into every C store and enforce. They can go into every vape shop and enforce.
When is going to put a vape shop in Tuktoyaktuk?
If there's,
because you want to know what you can buy in Tuktoyaktuk? Cigarettes. Are you going to put a vape shop?
There's going to be a vape shop there.
Well, we're making this brand specific. There's
there's less demand.
There's really no reason. I'm trying to get the phone lines back up. I apologize. I'm paying attention to the conversation.
We're having a good talk.
But I'm trying. But yeah, I just don't want to make this shop specific. That's all. That's all I'm trying to avoid.
No, but the channel does play into it a bit, right? It's going back to what started this, and in particular, my writing about it. If you want my personal opinion, we're going to have a NIC cap. It's coming. I can't stop it. Nobody can stop it. It's probably going to be 20 milligram because people keep pointing at the UK and saying they don't have a youth uptake issue. They don't have as much of a youth uptake issue, but there's a hell of a lot more difference between us and them than just the nicotine cap.
What else?
We don't have a government that comes out and tells our smokers to swap. We don't have a healthcare system that comes out and tells them that vaping is less harmful than smoking.
Yeah.
We don't have a national fire service that comes out and says you should vape because your house is
let me pull a question from the chat real quick so we make this a little bit interactive, and then that's just us talking all the time. This is from Grim Green. How many smokers are okay with not taking up vaping due to it not satisfying them due to lowered nicotine? That's my devil's advocate question. Okay, and this question
according to Farsolino's 20 to 30%.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, Grim. It really does. But also, let's not forget that we lowered nicotine levels within this industry to alarming low levels. Okay.
Yes.
So let's not forget about that as well too. Meaning that we took the 18s off the market. 12 was non-existent inside the vape shops. You go in the vape shops and there was 6 and there was 3. So if a smoker would go inside there, obviously they wouldn't get satisfied. Does anybody disagree with that? Phil, Matthew, everybody jump in here. If I'm incorrect in saying that, please jump in and let me know.
Make 12 milligram great again.
So when you get into that situation where you fall and you're a smoker, obviously when somebody puts out a 50 milligram Juul, it's going to be very, very successful.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the point.
Does that make sense?
It could replace a serious tobacco habit.
But again, we don't have the data because we didn't have 18 and 24 available for the smokers as well too. So of course they're going to gravitate them.
Some of us did.
Yeah, some stores did, but again,
and I did. A lot of people didn't.
A lot of people did not.
And I get that. Like I'm the biggest guy screaming about that. But the other thing is as a vape shop owner, the way I look at it, my job is to figure out what tool a certain person needs. Because conversely, I do have maybe, my guess, without going into the data, somewhere around the 10% mark. These people wanted lung density. They wanted thick feeling in their lungs. So for them, the Nautilus 2 tank didn't work. They couldn't get it. You give them a 6 milligram cloud chasing device, all of a sudden they're happy as a pig in a barnyard. But
I disagree with that.
That's a small group. And it's just it's the idea that you have to have the tool for the individual, and that's not always the tool that I used, or the tool that Shai used, or the tool that Phil used. It's up to that shop to determine how to help those guys find what they need.
Phil, jump in. I know you're itching. Jump in.
I just disagree with that. I disagree with that is because people just follow the trend. The trend was clouds, and that's what they wanted. They wanted the
for
clouds,
a lot of people, yes,
because it became a game. It became not tobacco harm reduction, and that's what they wanted. They wanted the game, and to me, the proof of that is right when I went to shows and I saw what's the vape trick group, Dimitri? What's the name?
𝗣𝗵𝗄𝗃.
Huh? 𝗣𝗵𝗃.
VGods, right? When I see the
𝗣𝗵𝗃 back to have a cigarette.
When I see the 𝗣𝗃ods go up on stage and blow all their big giant tricks and their big giant clouds and everything, and they get down off the stage and they pull out their Juul and they have a hit off their Juul, right? And then I said, what are you doing? They said, oh, the clouds are for show and everything, but this is what really satisfies me, right?
Yes.
The vape shops moved away from what really satisfies you. The vape shops moved away from products that help you quit smoking. The vape shops moved to toys.
True.
There's no denying that. Anybody that denies that in a world by themselves. So what I'm trying to say, Thomas, to your point, is that, and to the point that Nick made, what is the ideal situation that can benefit the most amount of smokers? I just want to bring this up, okay, for everybody that's here. All this here is one comment that I submitted to the FDA last year. This was submitted April 20th. If you want to go see it, it's up there on the regulations.gov website. I'll put it up here for you guys to see it right now, which would be monitor B. There you go. This is the comment that I submitted to the FDA, and this was based on a flavor guidance. But I want to read an expert, and I want to get your guys' opinion, because everybody thinks that I'm for a 20 milligram cap, but I'm not. See, I'm throwing you a curveball. I'm trying to get the phone lines back up. So, while the FDA announced the underage past 30 days ends use had suddenly reached epidemic proportions in 2018, which we all know was kind of a farce, as noted above, it has also acknowledged that the primary source of the jump was a particular bod-based nicotine salt e-cigarette, the Juul. Indeed, former FDA Commissioner Gottlieb explicitly said that open tank ends products are not the source of rising underage use. Do we all agree up to that point? Do we all agree that most of the kids gravitated when these closed pod high NIC systems came out?
Absolutely.
Does anybody
I
disagree?
would agree with that, but I'm not so sure that's where they are anymore.
Okay, that's fine. All I'm asking is if you agree. You don't have to explain it. So you don't agree. Shai, you agree. Matthew?
I'm torn 50-50.
All right, Bill?
Agree.
Phil?
Agree.
All right, I want to see what the chat's going to say on that as well, too. What is striking is that open tanks ends utilize refillable flavored e-liquids and have been available since as far back as 2009. This calls into question whether flavors are the cause of the very recent increase in youth use. While Juul is available in a handful of non-tobacco and non-menthol flavored pods, what is unique about the e-liquid used in the product is the high concentration, for example, up to 50 milligram, of protonated nicotine, commonly referred to as nicotine salts, in its pre-filled pods. It is this high level of nicotine salt in the Juul which creates the powerful buzz that drives repeated use rather than its flavors. Okay, this is me speaking on behalf of the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association, just to clarify. Of course, this should come as no surprise. Young people who get hooked on smoking, for example, have never done so because of the tobacco flavor, but because of the nicotine. This is for a fact. All these years, none of the kids started smoke. I didn't start smoking when I was 13 because of the flavors. I started because of the hit that I got from the cigarette the first time that I put it in my mouth. When the Juul first came to the market in 2015, then under PAX Labs, it announced that it had the unique ability because of the nicotine salts used in its e-liquid to deliver nicotine in more similar fashion to combustible cigarettes, at least compared to traditional ends that is using free-based nicotine. The Juul's, this is a little bit long, but I just want to make sure I get it across so you know where I stand. The Juul's ability to deliver high doses of nicotine on par with combustible cigarettes, combined with a host of other factors, which is nobody's talking about. The pod-based format, access at all age retailers like gas stations and convenience stores, user-driven social media and viral memes, straw purchases by older friends and family, and lack of enforcement of existing age restrictions, among other things, rather than flavors, skyrocketed the popularity of the Juul and led what the FDA quickly termed a youth e-cigarette epidemic. Okay? This is one portion of what I said, and then I'll continue with the rest of it where I kind of explain what we should be doing. But up to that point, is there any doubt that all this did not exist? I mean, I've been vaping since 2008. I know Nick's been vaping since 2009. Phil has been vaping since 2009. And I know a lot of you that are in this chat have been here for a very, very long time, at least 10 years in this industry. Is there any dispute that Juul came onto the market with this high nicotine pod system? It created a bigger attack towards the industry.
I can agree to that.
No disagreement.
As a matter of fact, look, when they, even pre-Juul, when there was all these, kids are vaping, then the studies were done, and it was a case of 80% of them are using zero nic. It wasn't until then that disappeared. Then it was Juul came out, then everybody, all these kids have to have their buzz kick.
Yeah,
I have one simple question. Because the salts make it easier to vape instead of the free base, because people used to.
I'll get to that.
They're gone 24.
Yeah, get to that.
So here's the question: 50. Oh, we need 50. Our smokers need 50. Why not 100? Why not 150? Why not 200? Where do you cap it?
Well, in Canada, we capped it at the level at which nicotine is considered a.
Yeah, but you're saying,
dangerous
no,
product,
people
which is
need 50.
64.9.
You're saying people need 50 if they want to quit. And I'm saying, hey,
I don't agree with that. I just don't agree with that.
There's a big difference.
I don't agree with it either. I don't think
need
50 is way too high.
And saying 10% of your market needs 50. I'm not necessarily a 50 milligram guy. What I'm saying is that when you go in and say, take my nicotine down by 2/3, and then when the public statement is we're doing this to make flavors, one, you just took away 60% of my reach, because some, very few, but some of my adult customers, they want 50 milligram. That's what they need. That's not what I needed. I'm not the guy who quit smoking with sheer willpower in 85. And
I have a question. You said two words there. You said two words. You said want and you said need. Which is it?
Well, it's up to them to decide. They decide what they think they need. Me telling them is what I think they need. The decision gets made in the middle. The reality is at 35 milligrams, I could still reach the vast majority of my customer base. But at 20 milligrams, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to lose smokers. I have zero doubt, because when salts came out, conversions went faster, dual use dropped, and I picked up customer base. I lost money because I don't make as much money off of salts. They're going through 30 mil a week instead of 120. But I picked up conversions. My business grew because I could reach more smokers.
It's because it's available. If it wasn't available, people would raise their power, lower their nicotine, and still be able to quit like they have.
And if it wasn't available,
I don't agree with that.
Right now, we have converted 294,000 vapors in Canada.
Yep.
That's 15 and above. So a lot of those guys are people we didn't want to convert. This industry has been existing in Canada. The first shop was Daniel David in like 2010?
And then it was
So
Happy Vapor.
10 years, we've got 293,000 vapors that have vaped more than once in the last 30 days. Yes, we have done an amazing job at picking up smokers. Stellar. We've got 5.6% of them. So don't tell me that that we've done so awesome with what we have, because honestly, we haven't. The data doesn't support it. And if we come to this 1.1 million quote I keep seeing, we better hope that quote's wrong, because if you hit 1.1 million smokers, that would be 20% of the existing smoking population in Canada. That would be in every newspaper across the country.
The issue you're ignoring here is, yes, let's say we converted 295,000 smokers. If we keep it all the same, they're going to ban flavors and add a NIC cap. So you're going to lose. Those smokers are going to go back to cigarettes.
So if we give them 20 milligram, who handed you the signed piece of paper that said, if you let us take 20 milligram, we're not going to touch your flavors?
Nobody, but that's why you posture and you position your beliefs to regulators in hopes that they make something acceptable, like they did in Ontario.
No.
Look at Nova
I
Scotia.
spent 20 years on a union. You don't put anything on a plate unless you're at a negotiating table. You don't offer up 20%.
Yeah, the CVA was
without having a guy there who says, yes, I will do this. Because what's going to happen is
you suggest things that would help.
Yeah. Canlong, the guys that are making that wonderful ad with the ice cream truck and the nicotine.
Yeah, there it is.
I have zero doubt that they're going to come out and say this is a great idea. We should drop nicotine to 20.
But this is not who we're trying
to. And then as soon as you're done, as soon as they get that 20 milligram nicotine cap, they're going to make a brand new ad. And it's going to be all about flavors.
The thing that we've learned with Health Canada is they're not listening to any outside influence. They're not listening to the body part associations. No, I'm saying they're not taking what the body part associations are telling them to heart. Otherwise, we'd already have bans. They're doing their own research, their own studies, and they're listening to industry stakeholders to create fair regulations. We could all agree they've done that, no?
Yes.
Okay. So the fact that Canlong is coming out with an ice cream ad doesn't fucking mean anything. It doesn't mean shit to anyone, because Health Canada and the regulators aren't listening to them. Health Canada specifically came to industry stakeholders and asked them, give us your suggestions on reducing youth uptake. So that's what we did. We gave them suggestions to reduce youth uptake.
Where did they say that it was flavors or nicotine? Because that's what was said on Twitter. Look, you got 4 choices.
Yes, that's my personal belief. That's not me talking about as the CVA. That's my personal belief and my company's
I understand,
but you have to pick one, because otherwise they're all going to get implemented. Like we saw.
No, you don't have to pick one. You should be fighting all 4. You should have lines where you're willing to negotiate. But you don't go in with a 60% reduction on a plate.
I disagree.
If a mugger comes up and demands your wallet and you offer him your watch as a concession, take my watch instead. He's going to take your watch. And then he's going to take your wallet anyway.
Not necessarily. No,
the one place I do agree with Thomas is that you don't start where you figure you're going to end up or settle with. So if you figure that we're going to end up going with 20 because the UK, then you start at 32. Hope that you might get maybe the regular or free base, whatever
they would still limit it at 20.
And you might end up negotiating.
Your show now.
But at least then you have bargaining.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
We need these other things dropped. And yes, we will concede down.
It doesn't work like that.
But you don't start at 20 And because that leaves everything open. They say, oh, you're already willing to go here? Okay, good. We don't even have to negotiate
like
that.
you-
Let me try to bring a
it's-
phone call in. Let me see if I
do whatever
got
they
this
want.
thing working. Okay,
They're going to do it whether you want it or whether you're against it or whether you're for it. You're trying to soften the blow to make sure that
It's called
whatever they
negotiations.
do, yes, but they don't negotiate with you. This isn't a negotiation with the government.
Everybody take a breather.
They're gonna
Let me see if I can bring this this phone call in. I think I've got it
510
correctly. That be speakers output will be this, and then the microphone will be multi. Not here. That will be.
I do find it funny that it's the 510 area code that's having trouble getting into the vape.
I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix it. I don't know what. I was working just fine earlier. All right, 307. Can you tell me if you can hear us, please?
Yes.
All right, there we go.
Hallelujah.
Welcome to the show. Sorry for the delay.
That's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hey, that's fantastic. You know, I just want to give a little bit of a different point of view because I'm in a really weird place, right?
Mm-hmm.
My entire state is less than the population of anywhere that the 6 guys on the screen live, right? My entire state is less than 500,000 population, right? So I've got like some different views than the rest of you.
Sure, I see what you did there.
You know, Deanna up in Montana, right?
Uh-huh.
Let me tell you what. I quit smoking 7.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I quit smoking. I was a pack-a-day smoker. I walked into this weird-ass vape store down in Colorado. They didn't know anything that was going on. They gave me a 24 milligram tobacco flavor. It didn't work. But I loved the technology. So I got online. I went to Mr. E-Liquid up in Michigan because I typed in Wyoming vape stores and it took me to Wyoming, Michigan. Can anyone other than you hear me or not?
No, we can hear you. Everybody can hear you.
We can hear you.
Everybody can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so as it turns out, I decided to open a vape store, right? Opened a vape store. It was difficult. It's been difficult. I've been the lone Wyoming fighter for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
I've joined associations. I've quit associations. I've joined other associations. I've quit other associations. But since we're talking about this NIC thing, right? What I've seen in Wyoming, which I know nobody gives 2 fucks about. I already know that. Because every association is like, oh, you're from Wyoming. We don't give a fuck about you. Every association.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you what, I have fought and defended the state for 7 years on my own.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't get money from anybody. I do it on my own. 2 years ago, Luke from 𝗂𝗟𝗄𝐴ZE Vapor in Sheridan, he also helps out in Montana. He joined forces with me. And it's been very, 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 very difficult. I can tell you that I convert about 200 smokers a month.
Okay.
Now, Wyoming, I don't know if y'all know this, but the state of Wyoming was the number 3 smokers in the U.S. We had the number 3, right, smokers in the U.S. Like when you think about a cowboy, you think about a Marlboro. You think about a guy spitting the chew off of his horse. That's what you think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I and many of my compadres, my friends who started businesses around the state, we changed that shit. We are now the number 10 vaping state in America.
Congratulations.
But let me tell you how we did that. We didn't do that with 50 milligram of nic salt.
Mm-hmm.
We did that with 18 to 24 milligrams of regular nicotine. Okay?
Yeah. Amen.
Then Juul came out. Okay? Juul comes out. All of a sudden, I've never had a kid try to get into my store before Juul, ever. Then all of a sudden, these kids are coming in. And one of my stores is located about less than a quarter mile away from high school. These kids start coming in from nowhere.
Yeah.
We've never seen a kid try to come in. And then all of a sudden, we're inundated with the freaking kids. Hey, man, what do you got? You got some 36? You got some 50s? Where's your ID? No idea? You're gone. Okay? So what I know is in the last 7.5 years, I was able to convert thousands of smokers on 18 to 24 milligrams, right? But now all of a sudden my phone rings off the hook. You got 50 milligram nic salt? I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable to me. So, am I in favor? Yeah. Well, let me go back a little bit, because I am a total fucking hypocrite, man. I am, and I will admit that to anyone who asks me. I did bring in 50 milligram nic salt in the end of February of this year because my sales were plummeted, and then we were shut down by COVID-19 for a while. And we did bring them in. But I'll tell you what, no ID, no sale. That's the way my stores work. I am a grandmother. I did speak in Washington, D.C. I don't want my kids, my grandkids, or any of my friends' kids or grandkids vaping. If they didn't smoke, they don't need to vape. That's the way I feel. I am 100% purist when it comes to vape, but I would be 100% in favor of lowering the nic level or having a nic cap in the United States of America.
Or anywhere, right? All right.
And I don't care. If people don't agree with me, hey, that's cool.
Absolutely. That's cool.
That's the state of Wyoming.
Nothing wrong with that.
I know that I have converted so many smokers that we went from the number 3 smoker state to the number 10 in the amount of time I've been open.
Yeah. So, listen, all your points are valid. First of all, take a breath. Take a breath. I don't want nothing to happen to you. Second of all, I am on your team. I think that we've had a product available on the market for all these years that can help people quit smoking. There's no doubt about it. Okay. The question arises on this debate is, should there be a nic cap? All I do is I'm referring to Europe. I'm looking at Europe as an example, as somebody that travels extensively to Europe, all over Europe, in various countries that are under the TPD that have a 20 milligram. I have seen an independent vaping industry thrive, and I have not seen any of the problems that I'm seeing in North America with youth initiation and governments coming after this industry as a whole. Because don't forget, Juul was just the start. Juul was the introduction into the market, and us, the idiots, as an independent vaping industry, instead of separating ourselves from them, we said, you know what, Juul? Hold my beer. Here I come. I'm coming with 60 milligram fucking pods. I'm coming with 70 milligram Eon smoke pods. Fuck everybody. I'm going to top what Juul did. So automatically, whether we want it or not, we're lumped now into this spotlight that the government has put on this product, whether we want it or not. So in order for us to separate, we are going to have to take a stance.
I agree with you 110%. Here's my question. To you and Phil and Fig and everyone who's got, and Matthew, I see him on there. Here's my question to all of you, okay? We allowed this 50, 65, 70 milligram nic salt into our markets, and maybe we needed it to just survive. How do we stop it? There's my question. How do we stop? Like, how do I survive without that? Because I'll tell you just a very tiny bit about my stores. I have nursing homes and assisted living stores who have a bus, and they bring their smokers to my store every week for their coils or their liquid or whatever they need, right? So my towns know. If you've got someone and they're older and they need to quit, bring them down to me, because we will spend hours with them. I mean, I had a lady, I don't want to go into it, but I had a lady who swears to God her thing didn't charge. And every week we give her a new charger and we just put her name on the old one. But anyway, we do every single thing in our power to help people to quit. But I'll tell you what, this, and I'm not going to say their name, but this high milligram nic salt, a lot of people just went in to get gas, and it was so easy to walk into a convenience store and get 68, 72 milligrams of nicotine for, $58, whatever obscene amount is. I had to do massive marketing, and I'm still doing massive marketing to get them home. I am 100% in favor of a nicotine cap.
All right. Well, you got your point across. That's
a while, but I'm in favor.
All right. I'm gonna have to cut you off because there's other people waiting to get on the line. I definitely got your point across, and thank you for your enthusiasm and your passion. It's always admirable to see a vape shop owner to be so fired up about their industry and about tobacco harm reduction. Okay.
Thanks so much, Dimitri.
Thank you, baby. Have a vape and a beer, please. Chill out. I'm really, really concerned about her. Let me bring in this next phone call. 715. You've been waiting patiently. I finally got him up. I do apologize for taking so long, but nothing. We knew something was going to go wrong today. So 715. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Marshall.
Hey, Marshall. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Marshall.
I really against nicotine cap. Most of us started on the cigarette type stuff, like a Juul.
Sure.
And it just didn't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't enough. It wasn't until the bigger tanks came out, like the Aries 2, that lower milligram worked.
Nice plug right
Where
there.
the industry failed was cutting down to 3 and 6, because that doesn't do it.
Marshall, you're my friend. You're my friend, and even though I disagree with you, I respect your decision. However, the equipment that we had in 2011, 2012 was by far worse than the equipment that we have today. Meaning that an 18 milligram harsher hit, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, can help smokers quit if, of course, the vape store has available the equipment that goes with it and the nicotine strengths. Because all you carry is Baby Beast and 50 milligram disposables. You're not going to have the options for the smoker. So how can we even get data? How can we even get data, for crying out loud? I mean, I'm getting fired up with this because everybody's not taking in consideration that the vape shops have turned into CBD pre-roll pipe selling shops.
And here we go.
This is all there's. It's 50 milligram disposables and 3 milligram high VG. This is all you're going to get. And you're going to give me data based on that? There's no way that you're going to be able to test out smokers. How did we convert so many millions of people using 24 milligram? Marshall, I'm not angry at you, by the way. I love you, brother. All I'm saying,
I agree.
Hey, you do realize that he mentioned the
I had to
Aries
start
too,
DIYing
right?
because I couldn't get 18 and 12 milligrams.
Thank you, Marshall.
There
you
you
hear
go.
that? You hear that, vape shop owners? Marshall and thousands of others, I can guarantee you, started to DIY because they cannot get. How are you going to tell me that you're going to convert smokers in your shops when existing vapors don't come into your shops because you don't have the available nicotines? And you're going to convert smokers with a 50 milligram disposable puff bar?
Part of the problem is that we, some of us vape shops, we didn't control the customer.
I lost the audio.
We let the customer control us. I think that was the problem. We didn't guide.
Thank you, Marshall.
them.
I'm going to put you on hold. Thank you. Go ahead, Phil.
We didn't guide them the way they should have been. Like one of the perfect examples is the when Dimitri and I did the vape shop in France, right? When you see the questions that are being asked, when you see the professionalism of that shop, when you see the guidance, when you see the follow-up that they provide, right? When you see the shop guide the customer rather than having the customer guide the shop, because the shop should be the expert as far as what you need to not smoke. But the problem is the shop became the expert on what you need to create a giant cloud. And I think, these companies, they saw that and they swooped in and they cornered the market. I truly want to live. I truly want to live in a world because you know what? I don't want to give up 50 milligram. I don't want to give up flavors. I don't feel, I honestly don't feel we should give.
I don't even want to give up cigarettes, to be honest with you.
What's that?
I don't even want to give up cigarettes.
Right.
Let the choices out there. That's ideal world.
I think it has to come down to like maybe what's the lesser of two evils. What are the negotiating points going to be? Because to be honest with you, this whole subject, this whole topic, to me is moot. Here's why. Because we, the public, are not willing to take a stand and say, fuck you, you can't take that away from me. Because until we do that,
preach, brother,
they are going to continue to come in. They're going to take this away, then they're going to take that away, they're going to take the cap away, they're going to take the flavors away, they're going to take fucking everything away. So to me, I love this argument, right? And I have my feelings and my opinions about this argument, but the argument is moot until the United States public and the Canadian public and public all around the world says, you know what? You have T21. It is illegal for kids to buy the fucking products.
Yeah.
Why do we need the ban? Why do we need the cap?
Yes.
You're telling me that you can't enforce the law.
Wow, look at that. I got to feel fired up. All right,
let me my argument for the last year.
Yes, we agree, but that's just not an ideal world. I just want to put this out there real quick. I want to, because Phil gave me a great segue. I want to continue. This is part of my comment on this particular topic. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of Dimitri and the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association on this. I just want to clarify that. However, our concern with the Juul and the nicotine salt concentration in that product does not mean that we do not believe that nicotine salts, which have become popular among adult users of open system vapor products, cannot play a significant role in tobacco harm reduction. Okay? A study that was published in IEM, which is the Internal Emergency Medicine, found that while delivering less nicotine than conventional cigarettes, the use of nicotine salts in e-cigarettes enables cigarette-like pulmonary delivery of nicotine that reduces the desire to smoke. For many adult smokers, nicotine salt products could present an effective reduced harm alternative. Okay? So this is a fair and balanced, by the way, comment. And listen, I don't care if you agree with it or not. You should at least submitted a comment, which you probably didn't.
That's a whole nother argument.
So this is my transition. This is my questions to the FDA and the argument that I want to discuss. Not argument, the debate that I want to bring up for our next topic. Instead of focusing entirely on flavors to address the youth issue, we encourage the FDA to examine carefully these public health questions raised by the use of high milligram nicotine salts, such as A, does a smoother nicotine hit, I'm dying, COVID-19, does a smoother nicotine hit from nicotine salts impact addictiveness and consumer perceptions and initiation? These are all questions, by the way, which I'm not tasked to answer. It's the job of the government to scientifically answer these questions.
I want to go.
Does a harsher, let me finish the questions.
I know.
B, does a harsher nicotine hit from free-base nicotine prevent never users from initiating use of vapor products?
Let me go.
I'm dying.
Let me go.
Does the availability of a product with a higher nicotine concentration and greater nicotine delivery attract current smokers to switch to vaping? Are nicotine salts a way to mitigate exposure to other aerosol constituents? For example, if exposed to a higher nicotine concentration per hit, will less liquid be consumed daily? E. What nicotine salt concentration, pay attention to this one. What nicotine salt concentration in e-liquid is appropriate for the protection of the public health? While nicotine salt concentrations of 50 milligram may be too high, considering the potential impact on youth initiation, we believe lower concentrations, maybe up to 36 milligram, may provide effective alternatives for adults while not being as potentially addictive or initiate use in minors. Go, Phil.
Yeah, let me just jump in here on that because we're talking about, I think we're talking about salt, we're talking about throat hit, we're talking about things like that now. I found it very, very interesting that in the middle of COVID-19, in the middle of a world where you couldn't get hand sanitizer, that the FDA made this statement and made a couple companies follow this. You need to make your hand sanitizer taste not good so that kids won't drink it, right? In a way, we took the bad taste out of nicotine in a way with Nic Salt, right? Because, I find it very, very hard to believe that these adult smokers who need 50 milligram, if you need 50 milligram, what are you smoking? Are you smoking Marlboro Reds 2 packs a day? Are you smoking Camels 2 packs a day? Right? Camels and Marlboro Reds are not fucking smooth. They're not.
Oh, no, they're not?
They're not.
They're not smooth? Oh,
so I think that is another way that we have created an initiation product because we made it too smooth. It's my opinion.
That's part of the argument that I have here. Let me turn it to the panel. Shai, I'm going to start with you first, sir.
So I don't see an issue with nicotine salts being smooth. I do see an issue with it being too high because it becomes more addictive. So my argument is that 50 milligrams is too high because it's addictive. So if an 18-year-old starts with 20 milligrams in a Juul, let's say, they're not going to get as addicted as they are with 50 milligrams. That's my point. They might experiment. They might try it for a couple weeks. And eventually they'll get bored of it and they'll drop it. They won't be addicted to it.
Yeah.
59 milligrams addicts them like crazy. I see it in my own brother.
And in my argument, what I'm saying is that the combination of a non-existent throat hit at 50 milligrams with a combination of that high nicotine salt that delivers into your body very, very quick is a trigger for initiation. So
Absolutely.
Instead of the government coming up and saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, why don't we try to find a balance? Meaning, let's try to find what products can remain on the market that can help the majority of smokers. There's not one product that's going to make everybody smoke. Not every smoker is going to vape. Okay, can we just all agree with that?
Yep.
We're not going to save the world like overnight. It's not going to happen. So since we agree to that, what we have to do is find population. This is how the FDA regulates, and this is how most government regulates. They put a product on the market and how it affects the population as a whole. So my argument is, what can we find a balance where we help the majority of smokers, and at the same time, we don't have this youth initiation that goes on. All right, Thomas.
I tend to agree with you. Like, my personal opinion, I could reach most of my customers with 36. My argument is that I do believe 20 is too low. I will lose a fair amount of customers at that pace. I do have farmers up here that spend 12 hours a day in their tractors. And yeah, they'll go through 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes. So for those guys, unless I want them chugging back 30 mil a day, they need a high concentration.
There's no doubt about it.
There is a trade-off to be made.
No doubt about it.
The problem I have is if we're leveraging that cap to try and get a concession somewhere else, I just don't think that's going to work. My entire history, every time I have seen that done, the other guy has said, thank you very much. I'll take that. And then he takes what he wanted in the first place.
Yeah.
And I got
It's
real
working
problems with that because I think nicotine is addictive at 6 milligrams. It's addictive at 12 milligrams. For a nicotine naive user, you will get that head rush at 12 milligrams in a mouth to lung
won't get
device.
as addicted.
My wife did. The way nicotine works is it goes up, it hits those receptors in your brain, releases dopamine, you feel good, and it creates more of those receptors.
That's it, not salt nicotine. Salt nicotine affects other receptors as well, too. I just want to put that out there.
Yes, it does. However, the dopamine release in that RCP report, they got 2 chapters on it about these receptors. A smoker develops more than a non-smoker. That's why eventually we lose that buzz. I tell all of the 20-year-olds, hey, that buzz ain't going to last. Sooner or later, all that happens is you feel lousy when you don't have it, because then your brain's saying, I don't have enough dopamine, and you go smoke so you can get some. That happens at 12 milligrams. That happens at 24 milligrams. That happens at 50. I don't think it's a case. I think the 50 is somebody, the kid's got it in their head. That's the highest I can get. That's the best I can get. That's why they go out there and they do the same thing with liquor.
All right, stand by. 484, I see you there. I'm going to bring you in just a second. Let me turn to Matthew, based on what we talked about on these questions that was submitted to the FDA. Matthew.
So the question at hand is the smoothness versus the nicotine content. Now, I've seen personally through other people, when I've been at shops, I've seen people that were only able to quit with a smooth hit with salt nicotine because the regular traditional nicotine was too harsh for them.
I disagree with that. I'll jump in. I'll jump in a second, but I just want to.
Please don't interrupt, Phil.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Now, I have seen that happen, but I've also seen the reverse of that happen, where they want that little bit of harshness to remind them of a cigarette.
Yes. Right.
So what we have to see, though, is every person is going to be different. We can take a bunch of people from this area, and there will be different results from that. Now, as far as the teen use is concerned with the high milligram, with the less throat hit versus the traditional nicotine with a little bit of throat hit, I don't see the youth using 12 milligram and 18 milligram traditional nicotine in Nautiluses or, Zeniths or any type of, mouth to lung setup. They want the high milligram nicotine because they get the buzz off it.
Right.
Now, with that being said, I started smoking at a very young age. I started smoking at 8 years old. I learned what it was like to have a nicotine fit at 10. And it was probably one of the scariest things I've ever experienced at that time. I don't understand how the youth nowadays like that buzz, because when I smoked that first cigarette in the morning on the way to the bus stop and I got that nicotine high, I felt like I was going to throw up. So the youth nowadays want to get that buzz. It's all about the buzz. It's all about the social platform with it. It's all about.
But they're also side effects of a cigarette, Phil. I mean, Matthew. You understand what I'm saying? They're getting it without the side effects, without the bad side of a cigarette. With a cigarette, we had to tolerate the bad, the coughing, the spitting. We had to tolerate it because that was the delivery of nicotine that we had.
Now, I went from being a 3 milligram user or a 1.5 milligram user to going up to about 3 Juul pods a day because I brought them in at my old shop. I enjoyed them. They were perfect. They reminded me of the cigarette. And there were times, like we were talking about, I was doing the clouds, I was doing the tricks in my own spare time, but I needed something that reminded me of the cigarette that gave me that hit. However, I used traditional nicotine to get off of the salt nicotine, which is what I see in one of my local shops. People come in wanting salt nicotine, they steer them away from the salt and try getting them on their traditional. But at the same time, all of this evidence that we're looking at, there's one common denominator, and Phil hit it right on the head earlier. It's the freaking kids.
Yeah.
The government cannot enforce the current laws. It is illegal for these youth to get these products. But nothing happens to the youth. They get their 10 minutes of fame with Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids or 𝗡𝗄 or whatever. They get their name blasted all over the place, and they get rewarded for doing something wrong.
Yeah.
The adults who are using these products are the ones that are getting punished.
We're suffering. Absolutely. Bill Tarling, let me turn to you.
Yep. As you said earlier,
on topic, please. Stay on topic.
𝗍𝗵𝗶𝗀,
yeah.
The newer devices are more efficient, more effective.
Yes.
Big thing we have to remember, we keep talking about the levels needing, some people need it high. You got to separate the people, non-smokers being initiated versus smokers. A smoker understands that, yes, there is going to be a harshness. That's why most of us started at 18 or 24, and we realized that. The local shop here, when I drop in, I'll spend about 3 hours there, and it blows my mind because we're in a small little town. I mean, super tiny. And if the 3 hours I'm there, he'll do anywhere from 3 to 8 conversions using a mouth to lung, usually at 12, sometimes an 18 milligram. Standard nicotine. He has some of the people who come in, well, here's what I've been using. I've been using these Juuls, or I've been using that. So he gets them on the salt. And guess what? He slowly gets them to switch. By the way, I know you don't like the throat hit on it, or it seems harsh at first, but you were a smoker. You know that goes away. Let's get you down onto a proper standard nic off the high nic, because that's not really doing much for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also we're going from an uncomfortable, we're going on an uncomfortable setting.
But we have to separate people being initiated versus the smokers.
And let me tell you, Phil, I'm going to get turned to you in just a second. I'm going to tell you, I'm filing PMTAs for the last 2 months. My eyes are about to fall out. In the PMTA, you have to show to the FDA that your product is helping adults transition from smoking harmful, deadly cigarettes to vaping products. But you also have to show in a PMTA that your product does not cause youth initiation. It is in the statute of the Tobacco Control Act. Paul, just a second, let me just address 2 things. Paul says that we haven't addressed hybrids, meaning salt, nicotine, and freebase combined, which I think is a great point. But the point is, if you want a smooth hit, 18 milligram, you can make an 18 milligram salt. Shai, you offer it in your stores. You can put 18 milligram salt in an open, advanced tank, meaning the newer generation tanks. 18 milligram in salt or regular is 18 milligram nicotine. So you can get a smooth hit without the use of a 50 milligram in a very high nic in a small pod system. So Phil, go ahead.
I have a huge problem with the whole smooth hit, and it's too harsh. Okay, and a lot of you are going to disagree with me. You're going to disagree with me in the panel. You're going to disagree with me in the chat. That's okay.
We love it.
Here's the thing. All right, I think we coddled people. I think people came in, right, and again, this is people controlling the shop and not the shop controlling the people. People came in and they went like this. It's too strong for me. Right? And you said, oh, well, we can fix that. And, we'll adjust your PG-VG ratio and we'll do, you know what? Fuck you, vape through it. Fuck you, vape through it. Here's why. Okay? Because at one point, and I've said this a lot of times on the Smoker Show, at one point, you picked up a cigarette. You took the cigarette, you put it to your mouth, and you took a drag. And the first drag that you took, you coughed. You coughed and you choked, but for some reason, you went back for another hit. And then you went back for another cigarette. And then you went back for another pack. And before you know it, you are a smoker. So what we did was we coddled those people and we created NIC CAP, right? And what we did was we created a product that helps you initiate use. That it's not supposed to be smooth. We created a smooth product that is going to bring more people and hook more people onto nicotine.
Amen. That's been my argument all along. It's like you creating a product that potentially can help some smokers. In Greece, and in any European country that me and feel, the conversions are not stopping with a 20 milligram cap. I have 4 shops in Greece. I can tell you we're converting people every freaking week.
Right.
With 12 and 18 milligram free-base nicotine or salt 20 milligram nicotine if needed to have that smoothness in the equipment that is now. It's not slowing down conversions. But we took the stance that we're going to separate ourselves from what the big tobacco companies are doing. That's all we did. That's the stance that we took. Hold on a second. Let me bring... Go ahead, Phil.
Every single vapor that I know, including myself, my brother, my mother, very, very close friends of mine, every one of them, when they took that first drag, they coughed. They said, you know what? You'll get used to it. You'll get used to it. And you know what? Every single one became vapors and don't smoke anymore. Not dual users.
Yeah.
They became vapors.
Right.
Because go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let me go ahead and bring the phone call in. They've been waiting very, very patiently. 484, and then I'm going to get to 570. 484 you. Hello. 484.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Of course.
How are you?
We're fine. How are you?
Good. Listen, I just disagree. I don't like the salt Nick.
Yeah.
Because the way I'm in old school, I started vaping when 𝗶𝗄𝗆 started there those years.
Yeah.
And I try and let me tell you something, because sometimes the heat is different, the flavor is different, and I try and they don't do any good, just no flavor at all. And a lot of people, you see them right now. That's what they want. Certainly, but I don't understand why when you do a video, you want to show it to people, help people to quit. I don't understand why cannot make it like something like a regular meat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not so high like that to
All right.
help people.
I know how to answer that.
know.
I know how to answer. I'm going to put you on hold and I'm going to answer this right now. Okay, so here's the proposition that he bring up. So we talk about flavors. I'm going to give you the prime example. Juul pulled their flavors out of the market a year ago. Did it stop the sale of the product? Absolutely not. Okay? Because people had gotten used to that high milligram and they needed to get it. They're going to get it with the mint pods, and if the mint pod's going to go away, they're going to go to the menthol pods, and if the menthol pod's going to go away, they're going to go to the tobacco pods. If you give them shit in a pod, if they want to get 50 milligram, they're going to get it. But we know, based on the data, that all the independent, in your association, Thomas, and Shai's association can all agree that flavors are the most important aspect of somebody converting to vaping. Does anybody dispute that? That is scientifically proven. Right? So from the minute that we bring in this
I think it's equally important. I don't think it's more important.
Thomas, no, now you're disputing science, Thomas. I'm not going to allow you to dispute science.
You need nicotine.
Of course you're going to need nicotine. Nobody's disputing that. But the biggest factor in somebody converting is flavors, because you want to distance yourself from the flavor of tobacco. When you quit smoking, it doesn't taste good. This is scientifically proven by Dr. F and millions of other, not millions, but hundreds of other scientists, including the RCP report.
what was proven was that vapors are or flavors.
I think you're just arguing for the sake of argument, Thomas. Let me finish my point. I think you're just arguing for the sake of argument.
They are not the pharmacopoeial answer to smoking.
There is no dispute that flavors is the most important aspect of vaping, period. I disagree with you, Thomas, respectfully.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Respectfully. So when we're talking about what this caller is saying is like they don't understand. What we understand and what my opinion is, and I think this is the opinion of Phil as well too, is that it's not a flavor-driven product when we're talking about this high nic pod. Okay? Flavors are extremely important, and we want to maintain those flavors. And if we want to distance ourselves from a flavor, we need to take a stance on what we're going to do with a nicotine cap to keep these products away from kids. That's what it boils down to. It doesn't even boil down to the flavors. 570, you've been waiting patiently. 570, you're on the air.
Yes.
Hit me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hit me. Hard.
I currently quit smoking like three months ago. I went into a convenience shop, and I got a coupon for views for like $1. And I had vaped years ago when it first became big.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't find the right flavor for me. I just couldn't find it. I couldn't find the right flavor for me. I tried all different flavors, all different types of devices, and I just couldn't find it. And I got this Views device with like a sweet tobacco. It was like a menthol with like a little hint of a sweet taste. And I'm like, And I found myself going after it, constantly reaching for that rather than my pack of cigarettes. And I found the last few cigarettes in my pack were always stale. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give vaping a try. So I looked up the best like mouth to lung device, something that hits like a cigarette. I found the Slide kit, the little tube kit.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh my God. I haven't quit completely yet.
Yeah.
But put it this way, a pack of cigarettes lasts me like 3 weeks. So I'm almost there.
We did not pay this guy to call in. I just want to make sure we did not pay this guy to call in. Yeah, go ahead. Finish.
Flavor is a big part, and I'm one of those people that don't give two shits about that throat hit.
Yeah.
That everyone wants. Some people want it, some people do.
Absolutely.
But I also got my son off of cigarettes, and when I was getting him into vaping, he said, "What's the highest nic I can get?" I said, "What do you mean? What's the highest? Why do you want the highest?" He wanted to. It's basically like with kids, they want to show off.
Yes.
Like, I'm vaping 50 milligram nic salts. Here, try this.
Agree.
And why do we have to suffer because of the kids? Phil had it exactly right. They still sell grain alcohol in some states. Like, who? Like, why do we have to suffer? Seriously, and he's right. We all need to just bound together in one big group and just fight back. It's ridiculous. Right. I want to get off cigarettes. I want to quit smoking. No, I feel healthier. I feel better. It's ridiculous.
I think that you're going to get there.
Different strokes for different folks.
Well, you got the right kid, so you're going to get there eventually. I think one day, and it has to click for you, honestly. And there's people that dual use for 2-3 months. There's people that dual use for a year. Don't pressure yourself. You're going to get there. You're on the right track. That's all I can tell you for my advice.
Yeah, I know. I'm almost there. I have about 3 Slide tanks with 3 different flavors in it.
Keep going.
And most days I go without a cigarette. That's fine. But sometimes I get that urge for a cigarette, and I grab my mouth to lung tank, I grab my Slide tank, I grab my Zenith, and I hit a couple pulls. I just like chain vape, and sometimes I forget about it.
Yeah.
That cigarette urge just goes away, and I love that. And it's
just
all,
remember,
all
every
this
cigarette
stuff going
not
on
smoked
is
the
ridiculous.
victory.
I hope I don't have to go back to cigarettes.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Matthew.
Every cigarette that you don't smoke is the victory.
Absolutely.
Don't look at it as you haven't quit smoking fully, but every cigarette that you haven't smoked is another victory. So keep it up, man.
Absolutely. Keep it up, my friend.
Yep, you're doing good.
Thanks for calling in. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, and we wish you good luck, all right?
I just want to add this, since he did mention...
No problem. You guys are awesome. Thanks a lot.
Buddy. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Phil.
Amazing stuff for me. Thanks a lot.
You.
Keep it up.
Thank you. Since he did mention the Zenith and the Slide, let me go ahead and round that out. I'm going to fill my Aries 2 with the #1 best-selling flavor from Unsalted, the Watermelon Peach. Tom, are you carrying the Watermelon Peach?
Of course not. No, it's only puff bars.
No, it's not in the national distributors.
Only puff bars.
My God.
Only puff bars. 903, you're on the air. Please join in. Can you turn down your stream, please? 903.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing?
Man, if it were any better, it would be illegal.
I know it. Excellent show. I really enjoyed the content tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. Gonna bring us anything, or you just called to say that you enjoy the content?
I enjoy the content. I enjoyed you and Phil talking about, the way y'all started and the way the NIC CAP and all this started. It's been very interesting. It's
been a journey.
I'm not gonna keep you.
Thank you, man. Well, listen, it's nice to have a call like that and participate. We really thank you for calling, first of all, and thank you for being on the journey with us. It's definitely been a 10-year marathon. I mean, it feels like it's 100 years, but thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Yes, sir. It's Dave from Texas.
Hey, Dave. All right, buddy. Have a good night there in Texas, man. You can't mess with Texas, man. You
can't mess with Texas.
That's right.
Good night.
All right, good night. 573. You're on the air.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear. Hit us.
Okay. So I just have a quick question, regarding the cap. So I know, like, how you were mentioning that, like, I think Europe, you were saying that they put that cap there and there's no change. Like, it didn't really affect them that much, But I don't know if it's a possibility, but, like, because the way I see the NIC CAP kind of thing is like NIC's also kind of a necessary evil in a way, because for some people, yes, they absolutely need it, but for the majority of people, it really doesn't do much. Like because I've tried the 50 milligram before, just because I wanted nicotine, but there was still something that was missing when I tried that 50 milligram. And it was always that throw hit. So then I went back to 12. Freebase, so to speak. So I don't know if is it a possibility that there's a way that, like, we cap it at whatever cap they decide. But then, for example, like with some controlled substances, they have to have like a special license. So like people who want to still sell those high nicotine products like NIC salts or whatever, then they would have to have some kind of a registration or license or something to that effect.
Fantastic point. Yeah, absolutely. That's a actually, it's in my notes to bring this up. So I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to get to the panel. So, and this was something that I was going to bring up as well too. So when we're talking about this product, we're talking about a high concentrate that's on the market, freely available to be sold everywhere. With a nicotine cap and maybe a more controlled point of sale for higher nicotine contents that, there's obviously very heavy smokers that need more nicotine. I want people to understand that I'm not against that. I understand. I'm not stupid, I understand that there's people that need higher nicotine content. For the majority of people, maybe under 20 or under 36 is going to be sufficient. What do you think about that, Shai? And Thomas, I'll start with you, Shai. What do you think about that? Being able to provide, at least for some people that just cannot get enough with, let's say, a 20 milligram cap.
Absolutely. I think I go back to what Ontario did, and I think that's perfect because it allows the government to easily control and regulate 100 shops instead of 10,000 convenience stores or gas stations. So by limiting the access to these products to adult-only establishments, they're also reducing the access to youth. I also think some people require the higher nicotine levels, but I can't be a hypocrite and say, oh no, only I could sell these products. Right. Because if I go to the government with that stance, the opposing side simply says, oh, well, he's the one that benefits from it. So that's why I go in with the stance that I think that all these products should be on the market completely. Of course, I think it's better for vape shops to only be able to carry them.
Thomas, keep it short. Let's go.
I'm okay with licensing, but the issue I think we'll run into is anti-competition law and government stance with regards to anti-competition is similar to what Shai said. If you walk in and say, this guy's allowed to sell this, but this guy isn't, you're going to get blowback.
Phil.
Okay. I think one of the things we need to say is if you're going to a convenience store, C-shop and everything, those little closed systems, in other words, buy and go, keep them capped, and that's that. If you want to sell the higher, then it has to be strictly a specialized vape shop, not a head shop vape shop, not a pawn shop vape shop, not a tattoo parlor vape shop, a vape shop for higher amounts. The rest should be capped. Why? Because there are extra concerns when you're using higher NIC levels, and you've got to match it with the people. You don't hand it to anyone and just say, here's a bag, hand it out like Halloween candy. So C-stores and so on, non-professional shops have a much lower cap and have vape shops licensed as strictly vape shops.
And maybe the government can set some parameters as well to us who's going to get access to those products. Matthew.
Yeah, I agree. I actually spoke to a couple people here in New York when we were originally looking at the flavor ban before it actually passed, and I kind of came up with an alternative solution. Let the gas stations and the C-stores sell the closed disposables and the pod systems only in tobacco and menthol, and let the vape shops carry all the open systems, but not the closed systems. And they can only sell the flavors because it's a give and take. If you're going to be saying that only vape shops can carry this, you're going to fight the C-stores and the gas stations. If you come up with you carry this that we won't carry, and we carry this that you won't carry, everybody wins. The customer has the option of getting a vape in the middle of the night when they're at the bar, because vape shops aren't open 24/7.
Thomas,
I definitely think when you deal with higher milligram nicotine, though, yes, it should be, if it's not going to be closed systems, it should be in the vape shops only.
Thomas, you raised your hand respectfully.
Yeah, just on the C-store thing, because I'm the guy who operates rural, right? Most folks here live in really dense populations. And in the U.S., most places are pretty dense, right, for population. Where I am, some folks, I got customers come from 2 hours away. So I really believe that this product does need to be available everywhere cigarettes are sold. I would actually go more with I'm sorry, the Reaper? No,
Yes,
Matthew.
Yes, Matthew. Oh, you can call
with
him
what
Matthew.
Matthew said. C-stores should be able to carry tobacco and menthol, because in Canada, look, 50% of our population is along the southern border, but the other 50% is in the middle of nowhere. And all of the vape shops are in that population corridor. They are not in Tuktoyaktuk, in 𝗬𝗏𝗀, in these little communities where you can still buy cigarettes.
The reason is it's not.
Yes, go ahead,
it's
Shai.
not popular there yet. If as it gains popularity, you're going to see vape shops in all those areas as well. The reason you're not seeing that now is because it's not worth opening a new store right now.
You need to have enough of a customer base to support a specialty store.
We're going into a different conversation.
When I did my first store, I tried it in a town of 10,000 when everybody was saying you needed 50.
We're going into personal. We don't want to go into personal.
Just barely.
Phil, on you on the topic.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me. Like, I want to say, you know what? If we're going to cap NIC, let's cap it in C-stores. Let's cap it in head shops. Let's let vape shops do their thing with high nicotine. Because if somebody goes into a C-store or a head shop and they say, I want a Juul, I want a puff bar, they go, here, right? But at least in a vape shop, the good vape shops, maybe they can have a conversation with you. Maybe they can have a conversation with you. That's one side of me, right? But unfortunately, here's the other side of me. When that person goes into the C-store, they see the cigarettes. That's where they're going to see, oh, you know, I heard about that vaping thing and I see a device over there. Let me try it.
Accidental conversion.
Yeah.
And that's where you need a satisfying product as well. Otherwise, they might not convert. So I see both sides of that, and I have a problem with that. But I really think that the conversation is important, right? And you're not going to get that conversation. You're not going to get that expertise at a C-store.
Yes. Let me get the couple more phone calls. I hope that answers your question, caller. And it was debated very, very. That's how a debate's supposed to happen. 514, you're on the air.
Yeah, that's Montreal.
Please mute your stream, please.
Hi guys, you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great show, Dimmy. By the way, it's John.
Hey, John, what's up?
I'm calling because I love the points you guys are making. We have to look at vape shops in a way like cessation clinics. In fact, the word vape shop is too much of a trendy word. It gives it a different kind of image. What we're really doing is consulting people, right? They come in, we ask them questions. So I want 50 milligram Nick. Did you ever smoke before? You know, we ask those questions to make sure that they understand what is available and what they can do with this technology. It gives them a whole lot of power that they didn't have before. Before it was a cigarette, you light it, and that's it. Now people can actually envision a way that they could wean themselves off, like you were talking about. I have many customers gone to zero and quit. So once you teach them and put that into perspective as a cessation clinic, you really start to see the value why we have to protect vape shops and make sure
it's something that we're seeing in Europe constantly. We're seeing it in Europe constantly, Phil. I mean, with our own eyes, we have seen it. It is not a cult. It is actually a place where professional nicotine specialists bring customers in and teach them what exactly is your end goal. And whatever that end goal is for you, the consumer, that's what they try to reach you. And unfortunately, that has been lost in the vape shops, and we've seen it in the last 2-3 years. Again, you can argue all you want with me, but the demise of the vape shop came from the operators of the vape shops.
Right.
Yeah,
when vaping,
exactly, going down to 3 milligram, that suits some people who are going down, but it certainly doesn't stop someone who's trying to get off the off ramp from cigarettes, right? They need something that's more 12, 18.
I think that if you look, what my statement has been is that there's nothing wrong with having the hobbyist side of vaping, the clouds and the cloud competitions, and all that is beneficial to vaping. The game, if you want it. The problem is that when the game becomes your business, that's when we lose the game as tobacco harm reductionists. Okay? That's the difference. So there's a place and a time for everything, including hobbying, building, rebuilding, all that. All that is part of the community. And by the way, how bad do you think all those guys that spent, hundreds of dollars on mechanical mods for cloud competitions feel now? They don't have anything. I haven't seen a cloud competition in a year with these pod systems that came out. So they get fucked they're vapors and they're getting fucked.
I feel
it's like am I right, Matthew? They're getting screwed as well too. How would you ever think that me and Phil are standing up for cloud chasers right now? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, John?
90
Cloud chasers were the most of our troubles.
Ignore the British lady, by the way. The phone lines can stay on even if you're here. All right. So, John, anything else that you want to put in? I'm assuming that you are for NIC CAP.
Me, I'm for the NIC CAP because I see the benefit in balancing the needs of the majority versus the needs of perhaps the outliers that might need it. We need to protect youth, so I think it brings the right balance. And it sets the stage to meet with politicians and have these different discussions.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it, man. Have a lovely evening over there in Montreal.
Thank you. Take care, man.
Everybody that's staying on the phone lines, please hold on. Don't go away. I can bring you in just a second. I do want to mention a couple things. Please partake in the poll here. I'll have the results here in a few minutes up on the screen. We basically I put 3 questions on the poll just to kind of give you an idea of what I try to do, because I think that people, especially people within this industry, mistake me that I'm for a 20 milligram cap. And that is not what I'm for. I am for scientific proof that will balance this product based on the population as a whole, on what levels are appropriate to help smokers quit and not cause initiation that is going to remove the right for me to fucking vape. Okay? That's what I'm for. So in this poll, the questions have been, I'll bring it up on the screen here, and that will be monitor B. Let's see what the questions were. So the questions were, should we have nicotine content limits in vaping? Yes, cap at 20 milligram. Yes, cap at 36 milligram. Yes, cap at 50 milligram. And caps, we don't need no stinking caps. So let's look at the results so far. 36% so far have said yes, cap it at 20 milligram. 26% has said yes, cap it at 36 milligram. 10% have said yes, cap it at 50 milligram. And caps, we don't need no stinking caps at 28%. A little bit across the board there, Phil. What do you think?
Yeah, it is across the board. Very interesting. I wonder if that low number, like when you say cap it at 50, right? I wonder if they understand that there are 60 and 70 milligram product out there. You know what I mean?
And that's why I did that. I did that because they are 60 and 70 milligrams,
Right.
which, by the way, are not big tobacco products, but that's irrelevant. It's our products.
Right.
And it also begs the question of trying to separate the pleasure of vaping. Okay, it's something that I want to talk about right now.
Ooh, I like the pleasure part.
And I want the panel to join in on this.
Okay.
Okay. Because we're missing something very, very important. What this high nicotine product has done, including puff bars and jewel bars and every fucking rip, blow, suck me, whatever bar that's on the market, and more that are coming out. What this product has done is created a task of vaping. And it has removed the pleasure of vaping. Okay? So the goal always was, at least for my first 10 years in vaping, was to help people quit smoking with the appropriate products, the appropriate nicotine, and then transition them into the pleasure of vaping, right? And that's what me and Phil are doing right now. We're picking up our devices and we're pleasurely vaping. We're receiving the nicotine based on the titration of our body, but we're enjoying vaping. It's not a task. It's not a daily, I get up and I'm feeling low and I have to have that high nic hit when I wake up, okay? The pleasure.
I want to hear that. I want to hear from the panel, but I just want to make a comment real quick.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back to what I said before, whereas the tobacco companies, they didn't solve the cigarette, they replaced the cigarette, right? They just kind of gave you another cigarette and you just kind of got to go through the motions of vaping it. But, you know,
I totally agree with that. And that's the question that I'm going to pose to you. Shai, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, can you repeat the question? Like what?
So does that 50 milligram product does that remove the pleasure of vaping? You know, vaping as we know it, right? Does it create a task? It's just like a cigarette. You wake up, you have to open up your pack, you have to light it.
I agree with that.
Thomas,
I think that's going to depend on individual description of pleasure, right? You got smokers that fly out the back door, light the cigarette, smoke it back, stub it out, go back to what they were doing. Lots of them. You got the guy who comes out, sits on the bench, puts his feet out, stares up into the sky and smokes. Different pleasures for different people.
Okay. Matthew?
So I kind of got to agree with Thomas on this one. It's definitely going to be different for different people. In fact, I find myself, even if I'm using my rebuildable mouth to lung, I still want to pick up my Juno and just sit back with it between my fingers and get the pleasure of like when I was smoking from time to time. So the devices, now I haven't used 50 milligrams since I quit using Juul, but the pleasure is on the person. Whatever they get pleasure out of, whether it's dripping, building, big clouds, little clouds, high nic, low nic, it's about what you enjoy.
Bill?
I think it has gotten away from pleasure in that people think, oh, here's what I need or here's what I should be using, rather than what's satisfying me. And I think that's part of the problem is to say, well, everyone's using 50 and they all say to use this, so I guess that's what I should be using.
That's a good point. It's something that we don't think about. If you think about it back in the day, right, we had a journey. Vaping is not a one-product solution. Do we all agree on that?
Absolutely.
Because if it was, there would be no smokers anymore. But obviously it's not, right? So there needs to be a variety of products.
I was going to say something about that too. So I mean, you could look at it from both sides. You know, we say the transitioning smoker needs something comfortable, needs something that they can identify with, right? Well, if we look at the pod systems, if we look at it, they can kind of identify with that because it replaces the cigarette. It does, but I think there's also there's a beauty to what vaping was and how I grew up in vaping and the journey that I took. Because when you take that journey and when you go to vape shows and you're sitting down with a community of vapors and you get involved in different products and maybe you get involved in rebuilding, you're more vested in it, right? Yeah. So it's not only the satisfaction and the pleasure and the nicotine that is keeping you off cigarettes, but it's everything else that goes along with it too. Yeah. And I think that helps.
Yeah. Marshall says, I wouldn't say it's a task.
To add on to that real fast,
to
what Phil said, it's definitely the environment and the community, you know, when you go into the vape shop, you're hanging out, you're building. What you see is there's more advocates that are in the community than your average person running in, grabbing their disposable or grabbing their pods. They could care less about what's happening. What you see are those that grew up in the industry as far as what it used to be versus what it is now. Those are the ones that get involved. You know, we may say there's an estimated 13 million vapors out there right now, but probably less than 10% of them are from the days of that type of community. People nowadays, they don't know what that community is about. They don't know what it's like to go into a vape shop, learn how to build from not one of the employees, but a customer. And then you start noticing what that person's using. You start talking, and then you grow your.
Let me bring a phone call in. 772. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi everybody.
Hi.
This is Robin. How's
Robin.
Everybody doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Thank you for patiently waiting as well.
Question, maybe.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just said thank you for patiently waiting.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. Just a quick question. I'm enjoying the debate. Maybe something else. My feelings on it. If I'm not mistaken, I'm sure with all of you there, you'll correct me, but the regular cigarettes, like the Marlboros, the Newports, all of those, aren't they like around 20 milligrams per gram, something like that, of tobacco, right?
Yeah.
So for people that use strong cigarettes, I didn't happen to when I finally switched to vaping. I had been on ultralights, so I didn't want any throat hit. I didn't need any of that. But for those men and women that had been on the really powerful tobacco cigarettes, wouldn't they need the 50 in the, you know, if you're looking at the ratio, if those are 20, 50 in the NIC salt would pretty much replace that. Whereas like when I quit, I started off with a 12 and went down. So in that sense, I don't know if I'm devil's advocate for anybody there or not.
No, I think it's a great point.
There is a need. There is a need for the 50 in the NIC salt if they're coming off the stronger tobacco products.
All right,
and that's about it. I'll go ahead and hang up and listen to you all.
Thank you, Robin. That's a great point. So let's start. Thomas, I see you shaking.
Yeah, when you look at nicotine content, and because of some of my contacts within my organization, I got a bit of a grasp on it. In the EU, there's actually a nicotine cap on cigarettes. They deliver about, I think the guy said, 1 milligram per cigarette. In North America, that cap doesn't exist, and according to the Canadian manufacturers, you're looking at about 1.5 milligrams per cigarette. But where the nicotine kicks in is we keep talking about device concentrations, but the nicotine doesn't really affect you until it's in your blood. So it's how much you got to get the equivalent. 12 milligram could give it to you if you vaped, say, 1/3 of a milliliter. 3 milligram could give it to you if you vaped 1.5 milliliters.
Yes. The delivery is different.
50 milligram can give it to you if you vape 1/16 of a milliliter.
Mm-hmm.
The math is the same amount of nicotine in the blood. But basically, 1 milligram to 1.5 milligrams in a North American cigarette.
Yeah, it takes a while to get there. It's just a different delivery method. Vapor it's very, very slower to get into your system versus combustible smoke. Shay?
Yeah, that was actually another thing that changed with salts was speed of uptake changed with salts.
Well, it didn't change. If you vape 50 milligram freebase, you're going to get the same amount of nicotine. It doesn't go into your blood any different than freebase nicotine. It's just smoother to get into your body, 50 milligrams. Just make sure that we clarify that. Shay?
So I don't want to talk out of my ass, and I'm not very versed on the comparison off the top of my head.
Yes.
So I'm going to skip this one.
Yes. Well, you don't have any context like Thomas does. That's for sure. Matthew.
I found with traditional versus salt nicotine, yes, you are getting, at the end of the day, you are still getting nicotine. You're still getting what the milligram is that you're getting. However, from my experiences, I feel the effects faster compared to traditional. And I also feel it like I needed it more compared to when I was using traditional too. Like I would feel it faster, but I would lose it faster. But that was just my thing on that.
Bill?
I see people going both ways.
Bill?
I remember that the tobacco and cigarettes also use boosters to boost up their nicotine. One of the things you've got to remember, though, how often do you smoke a cigarette? So even though you might be getting the amount of nicotine you want, you aren't just going to go, okay, I've had it for the day. If you smoke like every 10, 15 minutes normally, you're still going to want that pattern. And so just saying, oh, well, we'll just crank up the nic and that way you won't need to worry about that. People smoke out of the habit. Myself, I used to smoke about every 15 minutes. I would grab a fresh one. If I had a super high nic, I started with 24. And I found, oh, this is actually more comfortable. I don't even have to worry about my lighter. I can go inside. I vape more. Got a little bit of the nic woozies, and I'm going, okay. Check online. Oh, I need to cut down a bit. So I dropped it down to 18. I'm going, okay, this is the comfortable because now I can use it the same pattern that I use for smoking. If I cranked right up to a 50, and if I smoke every 15 minutes, I'm not going to take one puff of like whatever brand of 50 and say, okay, well, I guess that's good enough for the next 4 hours because 10 minutes later, I'm going, my habit, I want something in my hand.
Phil, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, no, I see people in the chat and they're saying that you're wrong on,
okay, it's all right. 50, we can disagree.
50 milligram is 50 milligram, right? And I heard Matthew say that he vaped. He says he could feel the salt faster, right? Here's my question. Did you vape 50 milligram salt next to 50 milligram freebase? Or are you even able to vape 50 milligram freebase?
Oh, you caught him at the wrong time. I mean, listen, the question, Matthew, was... So the question, Matthew, was from Phil that you said that you feel the salt's faster, but have you vaped 50 milligram salt next to 50 milligram freebase?
Yes, I have.
You have.
And you get completely... Where'd you find 50 milligram freebase?
I used to work at a lab.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
And you were able to vape 50 milligram freebase.
It was not fun, but yes.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong on that. Anyway, it's just my opinion on that.
I was trying to quit using 3 Juul pods a day.
Yeah,
so I was trying anything at that point.
It's just difficult to say that you're going to vape 3 pods of 50 milligram freebase or 3 tanks or whatever, the equivalent of a Juul, and you're able to bear to vape that much 50 milligram freebase. It's very, very difficult, and it's impossible in my opinion. It's just way too
I didn't do it long.
Yeah,
trust me. I only did a couple of pulls off it, and it destroyed my throat itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. All right, let me bring this phone call in before the phone lines drop. 650. Join the conversation. Oops, let me unmute you too. That would help. Okay, go ahead. 650.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? This is Sin from California.
Hey, who's this?
So, it's Sin from California.
Oh, hey, Sin. What's up?
So I have, I don't know, in California, they've solved a nanny state the whole 9 yards, but, when you go to CVS to buy Sudafed, they track that with your ID. And I'm not proposing that they put limits like they do in California, but why don't we just track any purchase of nicotine via ID? And, I mean, you go in and you buy beer, now at Safeway, they want to know my birthday. And they track it with my driver's license. And people would be foolish to think that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Listen,
so
Sin, I love...
should maybe have to be attached.
I love that idea, but what trade group has taken the initiative to even propose that? Even our trade groups, meaning the independent vapor industry. If we want to step up, and I agree with you, Sin, I think that's a fantastic idea. I wouldn't be against it. I mean, people are worried about being chipped, and they're not worried about being on the online. Dude, you were chipped the minute that you signed up. You were chipped the moment that you signed up for a Gmail account, right? But what I'm saying is that
you have a grocery discount card.
That's right. You're chipped. Absolutely. Sin, we're on the same page. What I'm saying is that who's going to take that initiative? It has to be somebody to separate themselves from big tobacco or separate themselves from another industry and say, okay, this is what we're going to do as an industry, meaning everybody that's a member of our association is going to take these steps. If anybody's going to buy over 20 milligram, we'll put you on a database or have to use your ID to make sure that we track the purchase of a higher nicotine product. Thomas, go ahead. While we have Sin on the line.
About mandatory carding, like with ID scanners?
No, it's different. It's different. We're talking about creating a database for users that want to have higher nicotine content, let's say 20 or 36 or whatever that number is. Again, I'm throwing 20 out there because that's been proposed, and there's 20 in EU. So what she's saying is that a database because like
both of the Canadian organizations have gone out and talked to a scanner company to offer our members mandatory or ID scanners so that they can mandatorily check ID.
That has nothing to do. Checking ID. We're not talking about this, Thomas. Yeah. We're not talking about ID. We're talking about a database. Like if I'm going to go buy ephedrine from the store because Sudafed, they track my purchases so I won't make meth. So they only allow me to buy a certain amount of Sudafed. I said meth and I got Joe Exotic on my shirt. I think it was fucking great timing. I mean, thank you. So what she's saying is that, okay, we have a vape shop. We sell up to 20 milligram. Listen, you want somebody that's using 36 because he's a high smoker and he needs more. We can track the purchases of the higher nicotine content to make sure that's not being resold or people buying pods to sell them to kids and so forth. I think it's a great idea.
There is a company that is doing something similar to that, but it's not just high nicotine. It's any vape product.
Yeah, you're talking about Verify, right? You're talking about Trace Verify.
Yes.
Yeah, and how many in this industry adopted it?
Well, that's the problem. The industry can't fucking do the right thing.
It's been my point as well too. But Sin, you bring up a good point, and it's a great discussion point as well too. And I'm sorry that you live in California.
Thank you very much, and you guys are doing good work.
Sin, I'm sorry that you live in California too. I just want to put that out.
Me too.
Have a great evening, hon. Have a good one.
You guys.
Thanks. Bye. All right, let me put because the phone lines.
I'm surprised you've been allowed to make a phone call before August.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the phone calls. We only have 2 hours for the phone line, so they're down. If you
what happened, D? What happened?
What?
You're super loud all of a sudden.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I cut down the.
Oh my God! Back up. Back off.
Hold on. Check. Hold on. It's because I turned off the.
Oh my God!
Chill.
You're blowing.
I only had 1 earphone in.
Check.
Way too high.
Hold on. It's okay on the stream. Okay. So.
No,
still very
not okay.
Can you cut down your volume from over there because on my well, it is coming up too high. I don't know why. Okay, how about now? Is that better?
Yeah,
that's better.
There you go. Just back up from your mic like 20 feet. You'll be all right.
It's not that. It's just because I had
still gonna blame Phil for the error.
I had to put the phone lines in my.
No, if it's an audio error, it's Dimitri.
Yeah, I had to put the phone lines.
If it's lighting, it's.
I had to put the phone lines in my streaming computer, not the other computer, so I had to make some adjustments on the fly to get it to work, but I finally got it to work. But anyway, so, I mean, yeah, the issue here boils down to this. We have an association in Canada that is for a NIC CAP, and I'm assuming that VITA, which is the organization Thomas says you are, that it's against it. That's what it basically boils down to.
I'm against it. I can't speak for VITA here, like they issue statements. I don't speak for them, but it's not that I'm against a NIC CAP. I am against how low it went, the reasoning that was given for it, and the expectations that are being put forth with it.
Can I bring up a really good point for a second?
I can speak for VITA. They're definitely against the NIC CAP.
So we have two industry associations in Canada, right? One for, one against. Can I ask you? What the hell is the government going to think when both of you go in there and one says for, one says against?
There's a very big difference between the two associations. One is grassroots industry associations. One is
you're missing my point, though.
I'm not.
The same
because
issue we're
government
having in
doesn't-
the U.S. right now is
Yeah.
the same issue you guys are having.
No,
Is
it's
the
not,
same
because
issue all vapors are having.
Not true.
We have
because
too
we've
many
been told-
goddamn organizations that are not on the same page.
Hey, hold on.
You're always going to have
I
that
got it.
issue,
I got it,
but
buddy.
The
I got it.
government has told us
Got it, D.
that
Yeah.
big tobacco influenced organizations are a negative. And the CVA, for example, has no big tobacco associations at all. There's not a single member that is affiliated with big tobacco. That gives us leverage when dealing with regulators.
I'm literally hearing SFATA and VTA argue back and forth right now.
That's exactly what's happening.
It is what it is.
That is exactly what's happening. Listen, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, I think at the end of the day that the governments are going to do whatever the government's going to do.
Yeah.
And then I think that groups that represent their members need to fight for what their members want. And if one group wants a cap and the other one doesn't, I don't see, there's nothing wrong with VITA and standing up for their members. I definitely don't criticize that at all.
That's the
No, nothing wrong with that. But it's just the way I just keep seeing this is we as an industry are not bred for dealing with politics, lobbying, and trying to get legalized. It's just not.
The fundamental problem with Canada is we have two trade associations. Any trade association, its primary focus and responsibility is to its membership, which is businesses. Yes. So here we have the grassroots businesses have their trade association, and the businesses with the guys who wanted to include a wider representation form their trade association. Our main problem is we don't have a 𝗂𝗍. We have no specific user association, like consumer association, that is outside of both trades and uninfluenced by both. Whereas you guys got 𝗂𝗍 will turn around and say, no, we think all of the trade associations are out to lunch, right? So we have THRA, but it's not nearly as big, not as nearly as impactful as 𝗂𝗍 is in the advocacy space.
That's the reason. But regardless, it's okay to have two opposing viewpoints. It's okay to have two associations fighting for the same thing in different ways. I don't see that as an issue.
Does Big Tobacco have opposing viewpoints?
Oh,
Big Tobacco and
Big Tobacco don't always agree.
I'm saying with the tobacco industry itself, do they have two different trade associations?
No idea.
Well,
No idea.
they don't operate that way. I mean,
the C-store associations, right?
Yeah, they don't operate like that. They operate through, like Thomas said, through C-stores, and they also operate on a different level, meaning that when we're talking about their products, as far as combustible products are concerned, those are protected. When we're talking about new generation products as the vapor products, the only way that Big Tobacco can win and survive is to eliminate us. Right. And what I'm seeing is, in Europe, Juul leaving 6 countries in the last month. You know what I'm saying? Juul is leaving 6 countries in Europe in the last 6 months because their product is not desired. Their product does not help people quit smoking. And guess what? There's no initiation use, so there's no use to having the product in the market. Mm-hmm. Right. Big Tobacco depends on new users. How can nobody not see that?
Yeah, and I guess that's the question. Let me ask the question, Thomas. Thomas, let me ask you the question, okay? So, I mean, I can totally understand why VITA doesn't want a NIC cap,
of course,
right? Because to be honest with you, the Big Tobacco products suck compared to our products for satisfaction without 50 milligram. Okay, that's where they lose. So, considering who's on your board, do you have any concerns with the fact that they're just kind of riding your coattails right now? And once they get what they want to get out of you, they're going to say, "Go fuck yourselves."
I
don't. They have in the U.S.
that way.
I was just going to say exactly what happened in the U.S.
Yeah.
UKVIA works in the UK. They are a very similar board structure to what we are. I don't want a NIC cap.
They have a NIC cap.
I'm not
Hold on a
Big
second.
Tobacco.
Hold
I
on a second.
understand that it's really
You
fun
can't
to
compare
poke
the
at me
two
and say that guy sold out. What was it I heard the other day? Have you been kidnapped? Blink 3 times.
No, I don't take that. That's just personal drama. I don't take that. That's not a debating point, Thomas.
I don't want to see a NIC cap.
Thomas, that's a personal opinion based on a personal
I agree with
attack.
that stance of their thing. There are times they put forward proposals and I go, no, I don't agree with that and I will not support that. And you guys never hear about that. That's what happens when disparate people agree on whatever they can agree on. And that's something I've heard from all members of this board. Oh, if we could just get together and agree on the 30% that we agree on and move forward from there. Right up until it's with that guy that I don't like. And then it's like, no, fuck you. Everything's wrong. You can't do that. I don't like that guy. If we're going to move forward where we can agree, then we have to move forward where we can agree.
Yes. Agree.
And when we can't agree on anything, you're right. It's time to split.
Agree.
And that's why this organization has said everything you're going to see coming out of VITA in the future, and now I am speaking out of turn, I'm sure I'm going to get to hear about it, is going to be focused totally on harm reduction. Period. Here is a 44-year-old man who used to smoke cigarettes who doesn't anymore. Why? Because that's the one thing that we can all agree on will benefit everybody.
Absolutely. No
I agree with you, but our inherent values are completely different from big tobacco organizations. That's
they
where
were
I
2
keep
years
coming
ago
back
when
to.
Juul was on the board or in the group. You guys used to have them.
No, absolutely not. Hold on. I need to correct that. Juul was never on the board of the CVA.
No, but
Juul
they
was
were
never even
members.
a member of the. No, they were not. They were accidentally. They wanted to be members. They were accidentally added to the membership list because they signed up online. They never ended up paying, and they were never members of the CVA. Just to clear that up.
You know,
but even if they
and
were,
Tom,
Shai,
believe me,
excuse me, Phil,
Tom, I mean, I love
Phil,
you,
one
and I'm
second.
not trying to get in an argument with you. Believe me, after this is all over, we're still going to have a beer and a coffee. And
Nah, we're all good.
But yeah, absolutely, right. But you know, here's my problem. Okay, is that VITA and some of your board members are now talking about harm reduction. If it wasn't for us, if it wasn't for the grassroots movements of vaping, right, they wouldn't be talking about harm reduction because they wouldn't have a vape product. That's number one. Number two, if they are so concerned with harm reduction, keep in mind, they're also selling cigarettes.
Sure.
But
are
are
you
also
gonna get-
releasing
here's the
new
thing.
combustible
I
brands.
said it before.
Still.
You can't get rid of them. People have been trying for 50 years. I'm going to put big tobacco out of business.
Right, so
The last major corporation that went out of business because it didn't pay attention to the market was Kodak. No corporation going forward is ever going to make that mistake again. They're not that
It
dumb.
doesn't mean you have to align
Time
with
out.
their values when they're so inherently different than your own. Maybe not your own. I'm saying my own as a vape shop.
Time out.
So I don't want to speak on behalf of you. On behalf of myself and my business, their values are complete opposites. They're trying to replace the cigarette. We're trying to get the person to stop smoking.
All right, time out just a
Two
second,
different
because
things.
we're veering into a different topic, and the topic today is not, the board
Yeah.
members.
I
But I will
actually had a
tell you on the
question for
on the topic of high milligram, there is no desire from big tobacco to have a lower nicotine product. It's proven from the products that they have on the market. It's proven by the acquisitions that they have made. My question is, what are you going to do when big tobacco in Canada takes the stance like they did in America and fuck flavors?
They already have.
Right?
They've already done that.
Fuck flavors.
It's not. It's not. What are you going to do?
will
It's
happen.
what are you doing now?
Right? So when we take this stance, it completely goes against the model that our entire industry was built on, and that's helping people smoking with the variety of flavors that we have on there. And when the legislation does benefit them to the point where either A, you are going to go out of business, or B, you're going to have to change your model like we saw here in the United States. All these 3,000 free vape shops, guess what? They just didn't make it.
All I can come back to is I joined ECTA because I believed that they could do some good. I have joined VITA because I believe that they can do some good. I make those decisions for myself.
Absolutely.
I look at their mandates. I'm the guy who sits in all these meetings with them.
Absolutely.
I know all the internal discussions, and I know what wins, what loses, how the control works. I'm still with that organization because I believe it can do some good for smokers in my country.
Okay.
I run
Fair.
a business, yes. I feed my kids off this business. I don't wear Yeezys. I'm not driving a Charger. I'm not flying off to Europe. I'm not doing any of that. I barely pay my bills. However, I do what I want. I am helping smokers. And if I really thought that being where I am would hurt that, I wouldn't be there.
Absolutely. Very, very respected on your on the answer. And what did you want to ask me?
Because you're from Europe, like everybody keeps talking about
I'm a U.S. citizen,
the
sir.
NIC CAP in the UK, the NIC CAP in the UK.
Yeah.
but they're not talking about the NIC cap throughout the European Union. So as a guy who goes over there, I know that we're like, what, a year from the Eurobarometer coming out? How's the NIC cap working with the youth in the countries where you don't have the government support to promote vaping? Say
we don't have any youth uptake anywhere in Europe, with the Eurobarometers included, because I talk to Dr. F all the time about this. There is no youth uptake because there is no desire for small devices because of the NIC cap. And if you don't have small concealable devices readily available on the market, kids are not going to gravitate to it. A kid cannot take this to school.
So all of the European Union is sharing the same level of youth uptake then?
The ones that are part of the TPD, that are enforcing TPD under the structure that it was, yes. I mean, the numbers they're definitely not anything that we have seen in North America, for sure. And that is solely because of the 20 milligram cap. There's absolutely no doubt that anybody in Europe will tell you that it's because of the 20 milligram cap.
So they don't share the same marketing issues that we have in the US with our turning tools into toys thing, or does that exist there too?
That exists. Because
but that hasn't existed here in over a year. Thank you.
I can show you examples on Instagram from last week.
Yeah, I mean, that exists. That
it's
exists.
Not as bad as it was, but it exists.
Yeah, it's not as bad as we've seen a huge change in that in the last couple of years. But I think that was market demanded from the consumers themselves. But once again, keep in mind that is a difference between a no nicotine product, where we're seeing a lot of this because they're short fills in Europe that are taking this stance or marketing. Most of the 10 ml bottles that have nicotine inside come, and we've seen it right, in very, very adult packaging on a finished product. So a no nicotine product is not a tobacco product according to the TPD.
Yeah.
So there's a difference there. Okay. So if a kid wants to get a zero nicotine product and blow clouds till they're coming out of his ass, I don't have any issue with that. Guess what? A couple weeks later, when he's broke and he can't buy batteries or can't spend 25 euros on a fucking bottle, he's not going to do it anymore. That's the difference. Yeah. But when you initiate use with a puff bar or something like that, at 50 milligram, that as soon as you're going to inhale it is going to take an effect, a physiological effect on your body and on your brain and on the receptors in your brain, then what we're saying as an independent industry, and this is where I'm going to end it, what we're saying is that, hey, listen, we have a substance that we know is nicotine, right? People desire nicotine. We have a product. And basically what we're saying is like, fuck it, we don't care about protecting the youth. We don't care about initiation use. We're going to sell whatever the fuck we sell. And to me, that's exactly the plan of what Big Tobacco has done in the last 60 years. And you can go look at internal memos from PMI, from Altria, from RGRs, from BAT, from Japan Tobacco International, back in the 70s and the 80s that clearly define this is the product that they want to have in the market. And they're copying the exact same recipe with a 50 milligram available, concealable product to create new consumers. I personally, as Dimitri, I'm not on that train. I'm just saying that publicly. I'm not. Even though me and Phil have been accused of being Big Tobacco for the last 3 years, I'm not on that train. I did not join this industry to affect somebody at 16 to start vaping 50 milligram nicotine.
I don't think anybody on this discussion did.
I'm just saying about me personally.
But Vita board members have.
Oh, Jesus.
You want to come and take a look at my scanning documents? No, I haven't.
I think we're getting into that.
No, not you. I never said you. I said board
nobody
members
on this panel got into this business to convince 16-year-olds to pick up vaping.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
And the difference is I have the data with the money I spent in response to issues to absolutely prove to beyond a doubt to any legislator that if a 16-year-old is vaping, he didn't get that shit from me. And that's something a lot of this industry can learn from.
Nobody definitely has accused you, Thomas. Everybody knows that the guys that are on the panel today are very, very responsible retailers. Unfortunately, you can't control your competitor. So, puff bars, you're not going to bring him? Guess what? The guy down the street is going to bring him.
I won't.
I'm just telling you. I'm telling you. The guy down the street is going to bring him. And then what's going to happen?
You can have them. I don't sell mechanical mods either. I think they're dangerous.
Yes, but
Never
what I'm saying is
one.
that
Didn't tell anybody else what to do.
What I'm saying is that if you don't take the stance as an industry as a whole, when Jules came here to America, I swear to God, my smoke-free radios are still up there on SoundCloud when I was on VP Live and on smoke-free radio when I did them by myself. What did I say, Phil? Please back me up here. When Jules came, I told the vape shops, don't put Jules into your vape shops.
Yeah. No,
okay? It's on there. It's documented. I said it. Don't put this product into your market. Separate yourselves. And of course, what did you do? Because the competitor had it and the C-store had it, everybody went and put them into their stores.
Then they came out with the neon
then,
pods, and they came out with all the.
I will tell you, I visited a vape
pods.
shop in Miami, Florida, and the guy 2 weeks ago posted on his. I'm not going to say who it is. All right, I don't want to create any drama. Big shop owner down in Miami that said, "Fuck Juul, they're fucking the industry." I was in his shop. He had one entire display case, Matthew, a whole entire, not one shelf, a whole case of Juuls. I was in his vape shop.
I sell Juuls.
Okay, so all I'm saying is we're making the same mistake now with the puff bars. We're making the same mistake. We're falling into that same trap of trying to compete in an industry instead of separating ourselves in an industry. We're trying to compete in a game that we're never going to win. And we're never going to win the 50 milligram race. Never. We don't have the accessibility to get the products out as those other companies do.
And I want to say for the record that our company never sold any closed system, not just Juul, because of what you just stated. And never will.
I do sell Juul. I brought it in.
Yeah.
I did. Because every smoker that was walking through the door, the first words out of their mouth because of the press, do you have Juul? And
not for us. The only people
20% of those smokers, if I said no, wouldn't stick around long enough for me to talk to them. And they would go to the convenience store. So I brought it in and it sat there and they would come in and then I could talk to them. And then I would sell them something else. I sell one box of Juul pods to one old guy who absolutely refuses to use anything else. Every 3 weeks.
Again, you don't understand the product. There's nothing wrong with a product. Thomas, nobody's going to criticize you for selling Juuls or not. It's a business decision that you're going to make. All I'm saying, I find the irony when people blame, when shit hits the fan, and it will in Canada. That's just my opinion. Again, it's going to be here on this YouTube channel, just like every other thing that I've said. When the shit hits the fan, you're going to be left out in the cold. Just like New York, prime example, Matthew. I go to Astoria. My good friend 𝗵𝗄𝗄 𝗠𝗂𝗧, Greek guy. I helped him set this shop up 4 years ago. I walk into his shop in Astoria last year when me and Phil were in New York. I walk into his shop. He's fuck Juul, man. They're fucking these flavors. Fuck Juul. He has a fucking Juul neon sign right on the fucking door. You know, the Juul neon sign on the fucking door. I'm not fucking.
That shop is beautiful too, and I love 𝗵𝗄𝗄.
I love 𝗵𝗄𝗄 too. I'm not taking it. And the only reason why I mention his name is because he's my friend.
They stopped manufacturing. They're not off the market yet, but they're on their way out.
I just find the irony of this industry. Make up your fucking mind. Take one fucking stance and stand up and say, "This is what I do." And I'm going to set myself. I'm telling you, Phil. We want competition from Big Tobacco because we can win.
Yes,
but it has to be a fair. It has to be a fair playing field, and it's not fair.
Like to give you an example, what you just said, Juul pulled the flavors in Canada. Why do you think they did that? That strategy.
Because they're getting ready to do exactly what they did in the U.S.
They hope that everybody. They hope that the government says, "Oh, we need to do that with all of the companies now." Because believe me, Big Tobacco, they want two things. They want one to offer whatever nicotine strength that they can up to the 50, right? They want that because again, they know their products without that 50 can't compete. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they want flavors to go away because that's another place that they cannot compete. There's no flavored cigarettes, and remember, they sell cigarettes too, right? So,
and where you see it as they pulled the flavors to impact regulation, I do not discount that because I don't know why they pulled the flavors. I wasn't there.
How can you say you do not know why they pulled the flavors, Thomas?
I understand why the knee jerk would be to say that. However,
I spoke to
my personal opinion, they did it because they continued to be absolutely smashed in the press by everybody for their flavors, and they actually don't need them. They can do their sales dropped for a little bit, but they carried on with tobacco and mint. But the press beating they were taking over flavors and youth, that really was dangerous to them. If anything was going to take them out, it was going to be that press beating.
No, because Juul turned around and got rid of their flavors, yet you had companies like Blue, you had companies like Enjoy that would not. They flat out refused to. Juul is the biggest, baddest one in the entire industry.
You realize that Juul put out a report saying that when they dropped their flavors, their sales actually went up because they got people to switch away and stop thinking about other people's flavors.
Yep, absolutely. By the way, I just want to pull this up here really quick. This is the mission. Our mission is to transition the world's billion adult smokers away from combustible cigarettes, eliminate their use, and combat underage use of our products. That is their mission, which, by the way, is bullshit, because you eliminate the product that helps smokers quit, which is a flavored product. So that is complete horseshit. I cannot understand how you do not understand why the flavors were pulled when we have a prime example here in America.
And
what the strategy
let's
was.
not forget also, Juul turned around and said, our users do not need flavors.
And don't forget, Juul also just pulled out of a couple of countries because they couldn't have their high nic, and they said, well, we aren't going to leave them in C stores because if we can't have our high nic, people don't want our products.
That's what it boils down to. All right, we've gone to a marathon, and I know we can sit here and debate this for another 17 hours, and who knows, maybe in a future episode we will, but we need to wrap it up. I know I've kept you guys way too long. I appreciate you hanging in there for the duration of the show, and I hope that you guys that are listening to this in the replay or listen to it live, at least got a good conversation out of it and saw both points. It's not a matter of us being the regulator and saying that 20 milligram. I'm not doing that. I think that the CVA, based on their membership, made that decision, okay? And I respect that. And I also respect Thomas's point of view on it as well, too. Whether I agree with it or disagree with it is irrelevant. But me, as Dimitri, what I'm trying to tell you is that I want the open vapor industry as I know it to survive. And if that means making some concessions, and I'm not buying the argument that if you give them one, they're going to take away other ones. That's going to happen whether you want it or not. You don't have any control over that. By the way, I mean, point proven, New York, where Matthew is actually right now, right?
Yeah,
So-
they got a 20% tax and then
Eliminated the product that they
Still-
can tax.
and still did a flavor ban. They were making over $1 billion a year off the tax money, and they still came with a flavor ban.
Yeah, but if
Nova Scotia did the same thing here. They they banned flavors, and then they put in a NIC cap, and then they added a tax.
But since Phil brought this up before the show, my last question is going to be, and it's we don't have to really dive into it. I'll give you a few seconds to answer it. If you had to choose, between a nicotine cap or removing flavors, that's the only choices. I don't want to have a debate on this. It's just a simple question. If you had to choose between removing flavors or a nicotine cap, which would you choose? I'll start with Phil first. How about that? Because I haven't gone first on Phil yet.
I mean, I would have to say the nicotine cap, because if you say, banning flavors, I'm a true believer in that tobacco flavor is very, very important for the transition, but the additional flavors out there are extremely important for sustainability and keeping people vaping, right? I'm a true believer in that. And I'm also a believer that you didn't mention where we're capping it, though, Dimitri. You didn't, and I think it's fair that
I think it's fair because I don't know the answer, Phil. I don't know what that number is. It's not my job to give that fucking number, and I don't think it's anybody's. There's nobody that makes liquid as a scientific fucking.
I think I would absolutely keep flavors and do the cap. I think that's more important for the industry.
Matthew.
Keep flavors, cap it, because you know what? We can always go around and add NIC shots later on.
Oh, that's an interesting proposition. Bill Tarling.
Flavors, tobacco flavors help get people off. It's the other flavors that keep people off smoking.
Yeah.
So you need the flavors. If you're going to do a NIC cap, that's what I would pick. But you don't start at your lowest figure that you negotiate. Start with a higher figure.
Shai.
Absolutely, cap. And again, there's no negotiating with the government. They do whatever the fuck they want.
Absolutely.
You just try to sway them.
Damn right.
It's not a negotiation.
You just try to put a little lube on it. That's all, so it doesn't go in dry. Go ahead, Thomas.
Exactly.
For my answer,
yes,
I'm a harm reductionist at heart. I accept neither. It's not my job to pick which guy we have to cut out of the system. I fight both right to the wall. I'm going to lose one, but I'm fighting.
That's very good.
Which one would you rather lose?
You didn't pick one, though. That's the question. The question is to pick one.
I refuse to pick one to lose, and that has been my stance right from the get-go. I will fight tooth and nail.
Right. So,
and whichever one loses is whichever one loses, but I'm not picking one or the other, because I'm not looking at my customers and saying, you're okay, and you're okay, and you're okay, but you No, fuck you, get out. The government can tell my customers that. That's not my job. My job is to fight to keep every tool I need in my toolbox to convert as many smokers as I can get my grubby little hands on. And that's what I'm fighting for.
Okay.
Would you sacrifice 5% of your customers to save the 95% of the customers that you can?
I will not willingly sacrifice any of my customers. I will fight for them all, and it's up to somebody else to tell them that they are not worthy. That's not my job. You can't get me to say anything else.
I'm not trying to get you to say anything. I'm just saying you'd rather.
That's why I said nicotine cap, and then you add Nick shops later.
All right,
it's
so
the loop around.
Let me just give you this data, because this is who I fight for. The mom and pop shops, friends of mine that left their careers and put all their money into opening up their shops and have helped thousands of people in Tennessee to transition. This is data. If you love data, it's included in my comment to the FDA. All right. So this is, I took my membership and I did a poll, a spreadsheet of their sales, independent vape shops, not big tobacco shops. I'm just going to give you the summary. This is sales of open vapor products, period, of January through May of 2018. Candy and sweet, 24%. Fruits, 29%. Bakery and savory, 26%. Straight menthol, 10%. Tobacco, 11%. So what we're seeing here is that close to 80% of the sales of independent vape shops in Tennessee, you can read this online at regulations.gov if you want to. 80% of the sales of an independent vape shop is flavored product. Flavored product. What does that mean? People transition with a tobacco flavor, and then the majority of these users, as proven in the Dr. Fasalino survey of almost 80,000 advanced users, need flavors to stay off traditional cigarettes. In my opinion, it's extremely more important, the availability and variety of flavors on the market, than it is to have a nicotine cap. And that's
I'll put it this way. We don't have a nicotine cap in New York, but we have a flavor ban.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't have flavors. You don't have shops anymore.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting proposition. All right. Shai, Thomas, Matthew, Bill, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It was
tonight.
fun being here.
I want to jump in.
Yeah, I will.
Let me jump in here with a couple closing thoughts. I think flavors are extremely important. I feel like if we lose flavors, we lose the game. It's the last thing we, as the original vapor industry, has, right? And if we lose flavors, I think, to me, big tobacco wins, because if the only thing we have is a tobacco flavor, guess what else tastes like tobacco flavor?
Little cigarette.
Fucking cigarette. The cigarette. Okay. I want to say that, but I do want to say to Tom, I know it looked like we were ganging up on you a little bit, but I think that if every vape shop had Tom's philosophy and had Tom's quality of the way he does things, I think we would be in a much better place than we are today. Absolutely. So I will say that about Tom.
Absolutely.
Very, very great point, Phil. Listen, I hope you enjoyed the DP show. We'll be back Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, with another Smokers Show episode. We're going to try some DIY Tuesday. Speaking of, just in case,
it might be a disaster. So make sure you're part of that show.
But Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, Smokers Show. This show is going to go up as an audio podcast as well. To do us a favor, give us a like here, subscribe to Phil's channel, and share this video around. It just helps with the algorithms, and it helps us keep on going and DPing you with opinions from both ends. All right. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. No matter what the cap is, continue to help smokers quit.
Take care, guys. Thank you.